60s this afternoon. A south wind light at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mild tonight, just a couple of clouds drifting by. Tuesday morning's low only 46, and then 60 for the high Tuesday afternoon. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
We know it's early. Mike's not totally awake yet either. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on NewsTalkSTL.
Okay, here we go. 2026, obviously election year, right around the corner for Illinois on those primaries. But let's be honest, all eyes are really on the midterms coming up. So where do we start, and what will Republicans have to do if they want to hold on to the majorities in Congress? 7:35, we're going to start that conversation with Congressman Bob Onder. Hey, Mike Ferguson here. Happy New Year to everybody. We've got some greetings from some of our friends throughout the morning on that. We had a really good chat with our friend Corey DeAngelis on Friday. Obviously, I think the most effective evangelist for school choice in America. And he brought my attention to something that's kind of interesting. Some Democrats are getting on board. Is that because they want to or they feel like they have to? Well, it's an interesting story, and it looks like possibly another case of policy-wise, President Trump getting one of his wins. He doesn't win all the policy issues, but it looks like the Republicans have found a way to make the Democrats say, we better do this. Here's how that conversation went.
Colorado's governor, Jared Polis, not exactly known as a centrist. I mean, this guy's left. He's hard left, but is he just seeing the writing on the wall, or is the message getting through beyond conservatives at this point?
Yeah, this is great news with Jared Polis seeing the writing on the wall. And it's because there's a piece of the bill that makes it irresistible for even Democrats to opt in. And that it's kind of like the 21 drinking age, where every state picks 21. Why do they do that? Because it's tied to federal highway funding. Well, with the federal school choice program and Trump's big, beautiful bill, I think more Democrats are even going to opt in because anybody can donate regardless of whether your state opts in or not. But if you don't, if your governor says no, we're just going to shoot ourselves in the foot. Well, that's going to mean money's going to flow out of state from blue states to red states. As a Texan myself, I'd probably be happy if Gavin Newsom says no. That means more scholarships for Texas kids from money coming out of California, because everybody was going to want to claim that $1,700, which is a dollar for dollar tax credit. You're either going to give it to the government where they're going to flush it down the toilet, or you can give it to a scholarship granting organization for kids to get a better education, like ACE scholarships. They've been doing this for 25 years, or there's a whole bunch of others as well that are able to do this. And so obviously people aren't going to want to give it to fraudsters running daycares. Instead, they're going to want to give it to kids to get better opportunities at a better life. And so I think Jared Polis is just the first domino to fall. We're going to see some other Democrats probably say, you know what? Usually I'm owned by the teachers unions, but this one really is a no-brainer, which is what Jared Polis told the Colorado Sun. He called it a no-brainer. He said he would be crazy not to. Those are his own words. And he's right. There's a built-in incentive to do the right thing. Republicans are already lining up. Governor Abbott, 5 other red states have already said they're going to do it. 3 Democrats have had a knee-jerk reaction. That's Oregon's governor, New Mexico's governor, and Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers. They've all said, "Oh no, this is Trump. I can't be associated with him. We're not going to allow our kids to get scholarships from the federal level," which is just totally brain dead. It's a political no-brainer to do the right thing here. I think they might say, you know what, maybe that was a bad idea, and later on walk that back, because the program doesn't officially start till 2027. But now we're in the new year of 2026. States can officially opt in. So we're getting the ball rolling. Jared Polis being the first one on the Democrat side to see the writing on the wall. And so hopefully we see more of that going forward. And if they don't, we live in 50 laboratories of democracy. It's going to hurt their own constituents. Why would a Democrat do that? Why would they say, oh, my constituents are paying taxes, we're not going to let them get some of that money back? So we'll see how it goes from here on out. And very smart on the part of the the Republican Congress members building this into the program to hopefully spark some change, not just in red states, but blue states too.
Okay, so the follow-up to that then, Corey, is one part of this is obviously the dollars and cents, the no-brainer type of aspect of it that's pushing policy, but what does this do for the overall conversation regarding the idea of education freedom, the idea of challenging the status quo in the teachers union and the public school districts? I mean, does this have the potential to get people to think differently about the entire issue?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've known for a long time, Mike, that this is a nonpartisan issue, right? You look at polling, you have supermajority support across party lines. It's been the biggest political no-brainer of all time for a very long time already. But this just kind of puts the thumb on the scale to make it an even sweeter deal, not just for Republicans, but for Democrats too. And so I think the more that we see this bipartisan trend, the teachers unions, their hair's on fire right now. They're not going to know what to do with it. And you know what? That's too bad. You know, all they want is to trap kids in their failure factories that we call public schools right now. This is going to provide some competition. This is going to improve those public schools. And guess what the teachers unions are going to have to do? Instead of spending all their money on politics and injecting that politics into the classroom, I mean, you look at the Somali daycare fraud in Minnesota and Washington State right now. I mean, wait until you find out the audits of the teachers unions. You look at open secrets, there's taxpayer money going towards the teachers unions because they're funded by the teachers, which are in the government school system that's ultimately funded by the taxpayer. 98% of their political contributions are funneled back to the Democrat candidates. It's a money laundering operation. It ought to be illegal, but the teachers unions are going to have to say, if we can't control the Republicans, they already knew that because they were in bed with the Democrats forever. Well, if we can't control the Democrats either, what are we going to do? Maybe we'll focus on what we've been supposed to be focused on in the entire time and funnel more resources into the classroom. Let's spend some of that money on representing teachers. Check this out, Mike. The NEA is the largest teacher union in the country, and they have an annual budget over $400 million. And if you look at their own public reports, the LM2 reports, publicly available information, less than 10% of that funding goes towards representing teachers. And so if you're a teacher, especially if you're a conservative teacher in a state like Missouri or somewhere else like my home state of Texas, you would be crazy to continue giving that money, your hard-earned paycheck, to the union every single month, when instead you could join alternatives like the Teacher Freedom Alliance for free right now. And you won't have to have your money going towards politics. You can go to optouttoday.com to do that. And there's already thousands of teachers leaving the teachers union because they've been so focused on politics. And most parents and most teachers, they want to focus on the basics, math, reading, and writing. But you have the bad apples. You have the leaders at the top like Randy Weingarten, who make over $500,000 a year. They're wasting teachers' money. They're wasting the money that's meant to be for the kids. And now we have an opportunity to bridge the gap to allow both parties a kind of an on-ramp towards supporting parental rights and education. The best way to do that is through school choice. And then if all the Democrats lock arms and say, no more, you're not going to control me, well, then the teachers unions will have to pivot. They'll have to do something else. They'll have to focus on representing teachers, which that would be better than what they're doing today, which is they're not helping the kids or the teachers. They're helping themselves at the top, and they're helping their political buddies.
Okay, so I've got a question on something going on targeting homeschooling kids in another state. But real quick follow-up to this one, Corey. New Jersey. Yeah, New Jersey. Is that do the states, as far as the national initiative, the Trump administration initiative, do they just need to opt in and accept the program? So we're not talking about states have to reinvent the wheel. They just simply have to accept what's being offered from the Trump administration, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, even if they don't opt in, I'll remind everybody, every taxpayer can give that $1,700 scholarship to kids and get a dollar for dollar tax credit back. You're no financially worse off than you were before. You either give that money to the government, they're going to burn it on fire, they're going to give it to the fraudulent Somali daycares, or you give it to a scholarship to a kid to go to a better school in America. And so the catch is you can only receive those scholarships, children in your state, if your governor opts in. And so it doesn't have to go through the legislature. It's squarely in the hands of the governor, which makes some really interesting dynamics kind of unfold right now in America, right? Josh Shapiro, he's the governor of Pennsylvania, for example, a swing state. He said he supported private school choice scholarships, tax credit scholarships when he ran for governor in 2022. But guess what? He was able to have his cake and eat it too, because the House was controlled by Democrats. He ended up vetoing a school choice bill that was in the budget. And he said, oh, it's the House. You guys couldn't come to an agreement, the House and the Senate, over the scholarships. So I'm going to have to veto it. This is the only way we can get a budget done. He can no longer make that excuse anymore. And so it's squarely in the hands of the governors. And that's the decision maker there. So make sure you're flooding the email box of your governor. Make sure you're calling your governor's offices. He can no longer, or she can no longer blame the House or the Senate. And so this is great news. It makes it easier to get the ball rolling in blue states than it would have been before, having to go through the House and Senate, either chamber in each state. And so, scholarship granting organizations already exist. So like ACE scholarships, for example, they're already doing scholarships in blue states. So even if you're not in a red state that has a tax credit scholarship program, you're going to be able to have students in your state get those benefits too. Obviously, there will be more scholarship granting organizations open up. This is what happens when markets expand. They'll be able to compete with one another. They'll compete on price, basically, like the lower administrative fees that they take. That's a win. And so market entry will be a win here, just like it is in every other industry.
Okay, just got a couple minutes left here. We're visiting with Corey DeAngelis, among other groups, the American Culture Project. But you mentioned New Jersey here, and I saw this on your social media earlier today. On Monday, it looks like they're going to be considering some legislation that would basically try to claim ownership of homeschool kids by the public school system. This seems like really, really creepy and just really ugly. What is it that they're actually proposing?
Yeah, they actually had a really insidious bill earlier last year in 2025 that would require homeschoolers to teach DEI, so their curriculum had to match the public school curriculum. And if you look at their public school curriculum in New Jersey, it's full of left-wing propaganda. And it's like people are homeschooling to begin with because they saw the crap during COVID through Zoom school. Like, what? Gender ideology, critical race theory? I thought you guys were focused on math, reading, and writing. And so people are fleeing to homeschooling. And at the same time, they're trying to clamp down on the homeschoolers to chase them down. That would be ruled unconstitutional. By the way, we have tons of precedent respecting parental rights in education in America. But the bill that they're going to hear and probably vote on Monday, the Democrats are going to try to ram it through this committee where they control the committee 7-4. They have a 3-vote advantage on that 11-person committee. They're also going to do health and wellness checks on homeschool families, not just from a government state official, but from a public school official. So the competition is going to get to come into the homeschoolers and say, oh, the kids have all these problems. They're probably better off in the public school system. These parents are doing a crappy job because they're so great in the public schools. They look at our test scores, look at everything we're doing. The kids are not getting bullied in the public schools. No, that never happens. And so they're going to try to use this regulation to try to clamp down on the homeschoolers, get them back, make homeschooling as unsavory as possible. And that's all they're doing. They're trying to protect their monopoly in New Jersey. And so, look, when they do these in blue states, no one's safe. I mean, this can come to red states as well. They'll say, oh, look, it wasn't so bad in New Jersey. And they'll use propaganda to try to spread it to your state as well. And so one other thing on this, Mike, is that the homeschoolers need to lock arms and fight back. So that's the first thing, obviously. Hopefully they can squash it before it gets out of the committee. But secondly, remember when Missouri was fighting to expand school choice a couple years ago? Guess what happened? Some of the homeschool groups said, oh my God, this is going to lead to more regulation. But guess what? The government can already regulate you without school choice. New Jersey doesn't have school choice programs. And you see what they're doing. They can walk and chew gum at the same time. The same people who kill school choice are the same people who try to regulate your freedom to homeschool. And so the moral of the story is, at the end of the day, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. You need to fight back against these people. And school choice is one way to build a bigger tent, a broader coalition to say, not today, Satan. If they ever come after your freedoms, you need people on your side. And so the homeschool community would benefit from having a school choice community say, no way, you're not regulating us. You can't touch us. And in fact, if you look at states that have school choice, they're less likely to have homeschool regulations. That includes Missouri, where in the bill that they expanded school choice in 2023, they also deregulated homeschooling. So you can walk and chew gum at the same time. The same people who support your freedom in one area probably respect your freedom in other areas. So the way that you're most likely to win, if there is any insidious bill that tries to go through a red state legislature, you're more likely to win if you have people on your team.
All right, as always, 314-912-1019. This is going to be a lively year, not just around St. Louis, but around the country. So make it a point. Maybe this is your New Year's resolution. Be more active in these conversations. Love having those conversations with everybody on social media. But you know what? Let's go old school. You got something on your mind that you want to ask about or contribute? 314-912-1019. This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Public schools, like public libraries, should be free and open to all. Open enrollment allows parents to choose the school that's the best fit for their children. Maybe another school has a wider curriculum, is bigger or smaller. Maybe a kid is being bullied and would be more comfortable at another school. 75% of parents favor open enrollment. Open enrollment programs now exist in 43 states, and Missouri should join them. Our next-door neighbor, Kansas, has one of the strongest open enrollment policies in the nation. Kansas parents are trusted with choices and options, while Missouri parents must move out of their home to change public schools. And it's a trend. Nationwide, the percentage of students going to their chosen public school has steadily increased. Assigning kids to schools based on their zip code is the old way. Open enrollment is a better way. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
If you're worried about losing your health insurance through Medicaid, we have great news for you. New government regulations have expanded the Affordable Care Act. And now you may qualify to get health insurance for you and your family through the Affordable Care Act. Call now to learn if you qualify. We know the healthcare regulations regarding Medicaid, and we've helped thousands of people find quality, affordable health insurance. Plus, all our research is free to you. So call us. With just one call, we'll shop from hundreds of different insurance companies to find you the right affordable health insurance plan. So if you're worried about losing your Medicaid insurance, call right now. Speak with a licensed agent and find how you may qualify for a new health insurance plan.
800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. That's 800-479-0931. Paid for by the Health Insurance Hotline.
The fighting spirit of the Marine Corps is born of battles won. Battles won within, over enemies of fear, enemies of doubt. It's who we are. It's what we do. It's a promise made to you for more than 2 centuries. A promise of the Marines.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Well, whatever shall we talk about today? Good Lord. Oh, my goodness. I mean, this happened so late Saturday, I guess early morning Saturday. This happened. I mean, Friday night, I'm out at a baseball practice, and then a bunch of us go over to Buffalo Wild Wings, and we're just having our food. No idea, that just in a few hours, basically the entire world's attention was going to change.
Yeah, talk about an explosive way to start the new year.
No kidding. So the U.S. we have executed a regime change in Venezuela.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a fact. That has been the end result of that. So the question is, what's next? So the Trump administration strikes on Venezuela and the capture of President Nicolas Maduro. Now, that's a victory for foreign policy hawks, without a doubt, on this, for those, because he's basically got a hawk-heavy cabinet.
Yes.
At this point, I would say. Bernie Bennett has the story from Washington.
They include Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth, who have advocated for an increase in pressure against Venezuela over the last few months in the name of ousting a leader they described as an authoritarian drug trafficker. It remains to be seen if those advocating regime change in Venezuela will get what they want. A hand-picked ally of Maduro, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, is currently running the country, and it's unclear whether a democratic transition will ultimately materialize. Mr. Trump said the U.S. would run the country in the interim. Bernie Bennett, Washington.
Okay, so that's why I say there's a lot of questions that still have to be resolved. But and I'm gonna tread a little bit lightly on this, but I think that in the interest of not being just a knee-jerk reaction, because right now when something happens, what we tend to do is, do you support or oppose President Trump, and then that determines what you think about. I think we have some very serious questions to answer about this. Now, this may be a completely legal and constitutional operation. At 6:35, we're going to talk to Mike O'Neill from Landmark Legal Foundation, to get his take on that, because I remember when I read what happened, I'm thinking, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how do we have the authority? Was this an act of war? Well, the administration says it was not. It was arresting a wanted man.
And when it comes to the law, the terminology and the actual intent of it does matter.
Right. And so Marco Rubio, as reported by Senator Mike Lee, says, well, we were executing an arrest warrant, and then all of the military strikes were to protect our law enforcement to go get him. And then that brings up another question. Okay, do our arrest warrants have worldwide jurisdiction, including within another sovereign country?
Yeah.
Now, maybe the answer is yes. So we'll talk to Mike about that. I know Susie's been looking into that. We're going to talk to Congressman Bob Onder about that at 7:35. But let's agree on one thing. A bad guy got taken down.
Yes.
Really, really, really bad guy got taken down. And in the end, this is likely to be very good for Venezuelans. We just have to make sure we're doing it right on our side.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
NPR, guess what? Got defunded, and they're going to close down operations. If they're not going to get federal funding, well, then guess what? There are plenty of radio salespeople out there in the United States who can sell time, big time. You know why they don't sell hire a sales team? Because nobody will buy advertising because they suck so bad.
Oh my God!
You don't see people.
You're so correct. That's it right there.
Vic Porcelli, live and local, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Streaming TV is where it's at. It's not about cutting the cord anymore. That's old news. It's all about your customized TV options. With the best and cheapest high-speed internet and your own TV subscriptions, we've got your dream TV lineup. Between wired and satellite internet and TV, you now have tons of options. Save money and get more internet speed and better TV today by calling the Whole Home Connect. We scan your location and offer you the best TV and internet options. And And we always have specials and promotions. So when you call, ask about that. Take 5 minutes of your time. Make this free call now and learn how to save money and get better internet and TV for your home anywhere in the U.S. Make this simple and free call now.
800-257-1632. 800-257-1632. 800-257-1632. That's 800-257-1632.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Deposed Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro and his wife are slated to make their first court appearance today in New York. The couple indicted on drug trafficking, narco-terrorism, and other charges. They were captured over the weekend in that lightning-fast U.S. military raid in Caucus.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio was asked by NBC's Meet the Press why the Trump administration didn't seek approval from Congress before carrying out an attack on Venezuela's mainland.
This was not an action that required congressional approval. In fact, it couldn't require congressional approval because this was not an invasion. This is not an extended military operation. This is a very precise operation that involved a couple of hours of action. It was a very delicate operation, too.
Rubio says the U.S. is going to give Venezuela time to address challenges that existed during the Maduro regime.
Until they address it, they will continue to face this oil quarantine. They will continue to face pressure from the United States. We will continue to target drug boats if they try to run towards the United States.
I'm Donna Warder.
Former Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez has been named interim president, and after sharp criticism of the United States over the weekend, she now says she's willing to work with the U.S. Protesters in Iran are not backing down, exerting even more pressure on the besieged theocracy and bringing warnings from President Trump of U.S. intervention should more protesters be killed. Crews have been working to clear mud from key California highways as forecasters warn that more thunderstorms are on the way after downpours and high tides caused flooding, prompting road closures and swiftwater rescues from people trapped in their vehicles. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has a news conference scheduled later today, leading to speculation that he will withdraw from the governor's race, ending his re-election bid. On Wall Street this morning, the Dow futures are up 29 points. NASDAQ futures 187 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
It's a new year. Ready for a fresh start or career reboot? At My Computer Career, prep for a more recession-resistant future in the high-demand fields of IT, cybersecurity, in months, not years, including AI. Whether you're starting out or switching careers, no prior training is needed. Attend school online from home or on campus. Go to mycomputercareer.edu to take the free career evaluation today. mycomputercareer.edu, an elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
Sheepdog, in theaters January 16th.
I just want to wake up in the morning and feel something.
U.S. Army veteran Calvin Cole confronts his past and through the tough love and support of his community finds the courage to rebuild.
Sometimes we gotta fall apart to find ourselves all over again.
Raw, real, and powerful, critics hail Sheepdog as one of the best films of the year, and the Charlie Kirk Show declares it a must-see film. See Sheepdog in theaters Friday, January 16th. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without pay.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Looks like winter might be packing up and taking a vacation of its own this week. I've got highs near 60 in the forecast through at least Thursday, if not Friday. And it all starts today under mostly sunny skies, up to 59 degrees this afternoon. A south wind light at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mild tonight, just a couple of clouds drifting by. Tuesday morning's low only 46, and then 60 for the high Tuesday afternoon. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Here's a great way to save money on your prescription medications. If you take Viagra or Cialis, we can give you a way to pay as little as $2 a pill. Compare that to prices as high as $60 per tablet. These pills work for men and women to improve their sexual performance. And now for the price of 2 or 3 pills, you can get nearly 100. There's no need to pay expensive prices for Viagra or Cialis. Call now with your prescription and pay as little as $2 a pill. We offer 24/7 service and always free delivery and confidential packaging. Change your life for the better and have fun. Call Pharmacy Shop 24/7 to get generic versions of Viagra or Cialis for as little as $2 a pill, plus free discreet shipping.
800-631-2030. 800-631-2030. 800-631-2030. That's 800-631-2030.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
I listen to News Talk STL on the app driving to work.
Download the News Talk STL app.
You got to get the News Talk STL app.
Love the app. Can listen anywhere in St. Louis.
And listen anytime.
News Talk STL right on my phone.
Anywhere. This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Mike Ferguson.
I'm sick and tired of smart guys.
Susie Moore.
Get out of here and stop playing victim.
Get up, in case you hear the alarm.
Get up, St. Louis.
We have federal regulations that prohibit hunting duck, and yet it's legal to hunt humans.
Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, so did we just capture a wanted man, or did we just conquer a nation? I mean, there's a lot of questions going on here. There are still a lot of questions about what happened in Venezuela, but more importantly than what's next. So here's what we're going to do is try to get, at 6:35, we're going to talk to Mike O'Neill from Landmark Legal, which between your legal background, his legal ease background, I'm not even necessarily, yes, we should have, no, we shouldn't have, but let's answer the basic questions, because immediately Republicans, Democrats, because it sounds like truly almost everybody in Congress had no idea this was going to happen.
No.
None whatsoever. So then, for instance, Mike Lee put out a statement saying, I'm looking forward to finding out what the legal constitutional justification is. He wasn't saying yes or no. Then he later posted, I heard from the Secretary of State, I think this is likely constitutional. And so I think we need to lay the foundation, because there's a lot of protests that happen in St. Louis, for instance, right over 64 there by Forest Park. And, we're hearing a lot of the arguments. People have made up their mind already. So let's get to some of the basics. What was legal? What's not? Where do we go from here?
Sure.
Kind of thing. So we'll do that. Start that off here at around 6:35. Also, both Missouri and Illinois lawmakers headed back to work for 2026 this month. Susie and I are going to be there.
We are.
Yep.
Not in Illinois.
Not in Illinois, no. And we can't afford that.
No.
It's too expensive to live there and travel there, just saying. And by the way, did you notice the gas prices on the Missouri side? Really, really cheap.
Mm-hmm.
I was driving through part of Illinois the other day. I think it was Saturday, Friday, I guess it was. And gas was darn near like $1 a gallon more expensive, just barely across the river. It's insane.
That is nuts.
It really is. Also, Blues are trying to stay kind of in striking distance of the playoff spot. Things not looking great at this point, but they're not really losing ground. They're just not gaining ground on that. All right, 6:07 right now. Let's go ahead and start off with a news dump.
Wake up, America. It all worked out. They got all the news.
The Morning News Dump.
Okay, President Trump announcing on Saturday that Venezuela's Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, was captured after those U.S. strikes. He's awaiting arraignment on Monday from a federal detention center in New York. So Maduro has been indicted on drugs and weapons charges. Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs Tricia McLaughlin was on Fox's The Big Weekend Show, saying that the operation brings justice for Americans who have suffered from the effects of drug addiction.
Hundreds of thousands of Americans and American families grapple with overdoses, hundreds of thousands of deaths, and Nicolas Maduro is largely responsible for many of these, funneling deadly drugs into our borders.
Okay, Hakeem Jeffries, ranking member of the U.S. House Democrats, was on Meet the Press on NBC News.
This was not simply a counter-narcotics operation. It was an act of war. It involved, of course, the Delta Force, and we're thankful for the precision by which they executed the operation and thankful for the fact that no American lives were lost.
President Trump saying that American oil companies will be allowed into Venezuela to sell oil to neighboring countries, and that's just scratching the surface of the complexities regarding the oil aspect of this.
Mm-hmm. I'm watching the parade right now. I think that's them maybe taking him to federal court.
Yeah, he's Maduro is literally on the way to court to be arraigned right now.
It's kind of like, OJ for the 2026 year.
Pretty much. Yeah, this is just one of those. I didn't have this one on the bingo card.
Not specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like there haven't been pretty clear hints that that he, the pressure was really on Maduro, and that there was the thought that he might be leaving office. And we can argue about whether he is. I mean, he wasn't.
He was not legitimate.
He was not legitimate president.
He was. It was comically rigged. I mean, he lost the election. But then there's the question: is that our job to enforce it? And that's one of the things I want to talk about.
That's absolutely a fair question. Yeah. So no, but did not. Waking up Saturday morning, which is normally my day off, to this news, I was like, oh, crap.
How'd that work out for you?
Oh crap. I didn't. Let's just put it this way: I didn't really have a day off.
No, I don't think so. All right. So the Senate likely to vote on a war powers measure following the ouster of Maduro. This is a report from Bernie Bennett in Washington.
Virginia Democrat Senator Tim Kaine said that he will force a vote next week to block further military action against Venezuela without congressional approval in the wake of President Donald Trump's operation to capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said he expects further briefings from the administration on this operation as part of its comprehensive counter-narcotic strategy. House Speaker Mike Johnson added that the Trump administration is working to schedule briefings for lawmakers when they return to Washington. I'm Bernie Bennett in Washington.
Okay, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio was on ABC's This Week. Basically,
he was on all of them.
He was on all of them, but this one's from
he
ABC's
looked tired.
This Week.
Ultimately, legitimacy for their system of government will come about through a period of transition and real elections, which they have not had.
Okay, so that goes back to what we were just saying, and then what's next for Venezuela, and then what, if any, legitimate role does the United States government have in this? Because part of these questions aren't about Venezuela. Part of it's about us.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, those are all legitimate questions. And obviously, depending on who's giving the answer, that's going to maybe change. But, I think it's key to try and get to the actual, the actual laws in effect, the actual facts on the ground, and not just let it be colored by your partisan lenses.
Right. Yeah. See, I don't want to be the knee-jerk reaction person to this, the partisan blinders. I don't think that benefits anybody, and so that's why I want to dig into it, just from a little different, maybe a little more thoughtful perspective on it. Which, let's be honest, the conservative media industry overall right now not doing a whole lot of let's dig into get just the facts. It's a whole lot of just defend our side.
I would say that applies to the media industry.
Yeah,
it's not just the conservative media industry.
Very fair.
Yes.
Very fair. Okay. Missouri lawmakers start the 2026 session on Wednesday with a tax reform being the main agenda item for the governor and the top Republicans. That's the agenda item. Let's see what gets to the finish line.
Fingers crossed.
That's right. In Illinois, the State House is scheduled to resume work on the 20th. State Senate has nothing on the calendar for the next couple of weeks. Members of Congress arrive back in Washington today.
Yes, and I did note that there's going to be a briefing this evening with like the Gang of Eight and that sort of thing with Rubio, Hegseth, those sorts of. So there will be some additional information provided to Congress this evening.
Yeah, and we're going to talk to Congressman Bob Onder at 7:35 to get what his take is on the entire situation. All right, U.S. House Committee planning to hold a hearing on the fraud scandal that we now see in Minnesota. Minnesota Governor Tampon Tim Walz has been invited to testify in front of the committee. Kentucky Congressman James Comer was on Hannity's special, and he says, we're demanding some answers.
The mainstream media is finally starting to cover it. They thought it would just be a 24 or 48-hour news cycle, but this is what the American people are interested in.
So the U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is going to hold that hearing. They're calling it Oversight of Fraud and Misuse of Federal Funds in Minnesota, Part 1, on January 7th.
Part 1, because there's probably about 11 of them that they need to hold.
You're right on that. Oh, good God, what a mess. But here's the thing, is we need to look at Minnesota as the starting point.
Oh, yeah.
On this. Don't think this is just a Minnesota story.
No, I think what makes it not unique, but I think what makes it particularly Minnesota-centric is because of kind of the way that state has governed itself to begin with. It sort of was ripe for the picking, but this is going on in a lot of locations. I'd be surprised if there wasn't some of it in all 50 states. And I would advise our listeners to keep an eye on Tim Walz today.
Okay.
Just saying that.
Just saying. All right. Little tease right there. All right. Let's hear. If you have not checked out St. Louis's indoor soccer team lately, and I suspect a lot of people haven't, you missed a pretty good game last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was on, they streamed it on YouTube. And by the way, it was kind of funny because the guy who was doing the announcing, I used to work with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I haven't seen him in probably 15 years, but I'm like, oh, there's Nick. What do you know? But after going up 2-0 in the first quarter, the St. Louis Ambush had to come from behind in Kansas City. They tied the game with 37 seconds left in the fourth quarter.
Oh, wow.
Yep. After overtime, it was still 6-6. And then they went on to a shootout where the Ambush got the win over the Comets.
Nice. Way to go, Ambush.
Yep. All right, and the Blues have a few days off. They won't be back on the ice until Wednesday when they take on the Blackhawks in Chicago. Nothing out of you, Jerome. All right, the Blues are now 17, 18, and 8 on the season.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I'm glad Trump's here at the moment. It's like Daddy arrived and he's taking his belt off.
On News Talk STL.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your cousin Bob. Get up.
Chris Arts here, and after Becky and I leave church on Sunday, we head down the street to Capriotti's to grab a classic meatball sub. And of course, for dessert, I get a giant chocolate chip cookie. I love Capriotti's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
When water troubles strike, call the family you can trust. Tim Jones here for Ambassador Plumbing, serving our community since 2018 with 25 years of master plumbing expertise from Tim Morris and his hand-picked team. Whether it's a simple faucet repair or a complete bathroom remodel, if water runs to it or through it, they do it. From residential service calls to commercial to new construction, the folks at Ambassador are your neighbors treating you like family. Ambassador Plumbing, where faith meets craftsmanship. 636-383-6932 or ambassadorplumbing.com. That's ambassadorplumbing.com.
If you turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. That's 800-439-7851.
Hey, this is Vince Colonnese. I'll talk to you tonight at 8. But now, back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL.
Introducing the Child Daycare Starter Kit, the fastest way to open a child daycare funded by the government that exists exclusively on paper. Each kit includes pre-approved vibes, paperwork you don't have to fill out, fake operating hours, an empty parking lot, and best of all, no children. Don't take our word for it.
I haven't unlocked the door in 6 months, and now I'm a multi-millionaire.
We'll teach you how to look busy, sound compliant, and confidently say, we're working on that.
I don't have customers, employees, or a working phone, and I've never been more profitable.
The Child Daycare Starter Kit. No kids, no staff, no problem.
I didn't tell Susie.
Oh dear.
I didn't tell Susie I was going to do
dear.
that one.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, the memes write themselves.
Yes.
The parodies write themselves.
And again, if we weren't talking about potentially billions of dollars around the country, this would be a cartoon.
Yeah. Well, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Like straight out of, I don't know, South Park, Simpsons.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the things I want to talk to Congressman Bob Onder about at 7:35 is whether or not we need to be looking at the entire country. That Minnesota just got caught, and they were the first ones to get caught on a large scale.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you need to look at all the programs and don't not limit it to just one state. And what we're doing that sets these things up and makes it so easy to rip them off. I mean, like, the proverbial saying, like taking candy from a baby. I mean, that's literally how these were set up. And you have to, at some point, ask yourself, okay, set aside the people who are actually engaging in, receiving the funds and not delivering services. What about the people that were in charge with overseeing that?
Right.
Or, enacting these provisions that allow. Were they hoping that this is what would happen?
Well, and I've seen it brought up on social media, and I think there's a good point, and somebody's going to get mad at me for saying this. And no, I'm not just repeating what I said. I agree with this. Is saying, listen, Somalia is not exactly the most sophisticated culture. Okay, not the most technologically advanced, not the most educated out there. Okay, you're telling me that they have outsmarted government officials at all different levels to this level? No. Somebody knew exactly what was happening, and this was getting to be a payoff. This was a grift by somebody, and it wasn't just by the ones doing the grifting.
I think it invites some very close look at the DSF? What's the party up there? The Democrat Socialist Farmers something?
Yeah, Democrat Socialist Farmers Labor or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, which is the majority party in Minnesota. Because I do think that's a political DFL, a political starting point when you're looking at whether there is political shenanigans going on here. But yeah, I think it invites serious questions about who thought this was a good idea and hasn't. Oh, like Tim Walz, all these in response to all this has been like, oh well, we've been working on it. Right. Well, you've been working on it because it's gotten worse and worse and worse, and this has been going on for years.
Yeah, and the guy who got up there and said, well, somebody broke into our daycare and boy took out all the records. Oh, that's weird. And they broke in from the inside, and that guy didn't outsmart the federal and state government. Okay,
no,
that guy didn't outsmart them. That guy likely participated in the theft of taxpayer money, but he wasn't the mastermind.
No.
Okay, so that's why we need to look at a much bigger picture here.
I want to recommend this. I don't know if you've heard of, if you know who Walter Kern is.
I know that name. Why do I know that name?
Well, okay, so he's a writer, and he does a podcast with Matt Taibbi.
Oh, okay,
America This Week.
Okay. Yeah.
And he also has a hard copy paper called County Highway that I subscribe to. It comes once a month, and they do all kinds of coverage. But there is a deep dive in the last issue on this, from early December. So this was before the Nick Shirley videos. A very, very deep dive on this that I highly recommend. Of course, you have to obtain a copy of County Highway in order to read it. But it is a really good look at sort of the background and history of how this community and how these programs got to where they've got. And I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, because in some states and in some areas, government programs are just looked at as a largesse for the politically connected.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like it's its own industry.
Yeah.
Which
yeah. Oh, yeah.
that's not good.
No, not in the least bit.
No. Well, hey, you know what? The bad guy is in jail.
Yes.
I think we can agree to that. We're talking about Nicolas Maduro, of course. Now, the question becomes, do the ends justify the means? Does our law allow the invasion of Venezuela to capture Maduro? At 6:35, we're going to give you the foundational information on what happened over the weekend.
Yeah, and that, like I say, that's a good way to put it, as in the foundational part.
Yeah.
Then we can get into whether you agree or disagree,
Right.
good or bad, was Trump right or wrong, that sort of thing. But let's answer some basic questions. And this conversation we'll have with Mike O'Neill, I have a feeling is going to be one of those that, if you're subscribed to the podcast, this is one to say, okay, here's the foundation. Send that out on your social media, text, that kind of thing. I think this is going to be really, really helpful.
I think so, too.
On that. Okay, it is coming up on 6:24 right now. Susie
They're
and
putting him on the helicopter right now.
They they are, like, literally at this moment.
Right.
They're putting him on a chopper, and then he's
Taking him to court.
Yeah. Did you see some of the AI videos already people are making of this?
Oh, I did.
Oh my God! Did you see these? I saw one. It was Maduro sitting in a jail cell, and of course these AI look unbelievably realistic now. And he's like looking like he's going to cry, and then the camera turns to the side, and it's Diddy pouring out some baby oil.
Oh no!
It was in the jail
cell. Oh no!
So I didn't see that one, but I did see one where they're both in a cell together, and it says, "Don't worry, Maduro. They took my oil too."
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Oh dear. Oh man. Oh man. Well, this is going to be interesting. You know, the judge that his case is in front of, and we can get into this later,
Sure.
but this case has been a live case since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Maduro was added as a named defendant in 2020. This is not a brand new case or indictment even. This is the fourth superseding indictment. Yeah. But the judge it's in front of is Alvin Hellerstein. He's the judge that twice rejected Trump's bid to take his New York criminal case to federal court out of state court, and now has it back in front of him again because the Second Circuit Court of Appeals said, no, you need to look at that again.
Mm-hmm.
So Alvin Hellerstein is no, stranger to big controversial cases. This is going to be interesting to see how this is handled.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated throughout the day. Obviously, we've got, SRN news every top of the hour, so you're going to stay up to date on this. All right, you and I are going to be in Jeff City this week.
We are. I'm excited.
Yes, so the Missouri legislative session, as I'm sure most of you know, if you're really news junkies, starts on Wednesday, and we're going to be doing the morning show from the state capitol. So listen, if you're out there to get in front of your lawmakers, you're going to be there opening day. We're going to be on the third floor rotunda, and we're going to be doing the show from there. We've got many people who are going to be stopping by.
Yes, we do.
I'm locking those down, but I'm just saying that these are names that are very, very, very well known, and these are some of the more influential people, including I should be able to have it confirmed today, but the most influential person in Missouri has asked to be on the show, so we're going to talk to him as well. We're just trying to figure out exactly what time that's going to happen. But this is going to be a consequential legislative session.
It is.
For the state of Missouri. One, because we've got obviously high expectations from conservatives. And then at the same time, politicians sometimes get real bashful in election years because they don't want to be looked at as being too extreme.
True.
But Republicans are saying, no. You got some things done last year. We took some good steps, and you've been rewarded with this because guess what happened in 2024 when you were bold? You got reelected.
Right.
And they still got the supermajority. So there's a lot of pressure. I think a lot of conservatives, not just Republicans, a lot of conservatives are saying, we have high expectations. We don't want to hear, gosh darn it, we tried. We just couldn't get it done this year.
Absolutely not. I mean, now is the time to act and to follow through on that agenda. That's what they were elected to do. And I think Missourians rightly have that expectation.
So I don't want to, put the cart before the horse, but so should we expect maybe some of the things that we've been griping about for the past couple of years now to finally get pushed through? Because a lot of the national attitude is that we've had the majority, the Republicans have had the majority at the federal level and have not followed through or gotten things through to the extent that some people would like. So now at the state level, if they're not going to be pushing these bold measures, would that not be a better strategy? Because otherwise that could backfire on you and then kind of, taint the hope that we had in you to begin with?
Well, I mean, I think the bottom line is if they don't act now, when are they going to act?
Yeah.
I mean, you're the window to do so, the opportunity to do so is only so big, and you cannot count on having the majority or a significant majority for any stretch of time, whether you're talking about Missouri or you're talking about the national level. So you better act while you can. That's been one of the weaknesses of Republicans, both nationally and statewide, is, oh, we've got power. Now we don't know what to do. We're so used to being out of power and complaining about the party in power. Now we don't know how to govern. So I think we saw some glimmers of it last year with the Missouri legislature. And I think, there's at least some hopeful signs with this leadership that's in place now that they can follow through, but they do need to do that.
Yeah, because for years, up until last year, when you were on as a guest, when Gabe was here, and, we, at one point, I guess it was about 3 years ago, we said, you know what, here's what's going to happen with this. And we just flat out said on opening day, Republicans are going to talk tough. They're going to beat their chest like the silverback gorilla, head of the troop or whatever. And then at the very end, it's not going to get done. And they're going to say, gosh darn it, we really tried, but the time ran out. That's just the process.
Shucks.
And we were right in 2021. We were right in 2022. We were right in 2023. And then last year, Republicans got their act together and got a few things, not as much as we'd like, but they got some significant things done.
They did. And they seem to have a pretty clearly delineated agenda right now with a governor who's like gung-ho about it. So I'm taking that as a hopeful sign, but, I know not to count my chickens before they're hatched.
Exactly. You never know what's going to happen in politics. As former state rep Tony Lavasco's told me a number of times, he says the whole system is designed to make it really difficult to get something passed, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Because while we want the good stuff to pass real easy, we want it to be really hard for the bad stuff to get through.
Right. So, yeah, it's a balance. You have to find that right balance. But, of course, it seems like the Democrats don't have problems pushing their stuff through. So,
well, the Democrats in Missouri are basically what the Republicans are in Illinois. Their entire job is to play defense 100%
that's right.
of the
right.
time.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, okay, so our questions about the U.S.'s right to capture Maduro are fair, or is that just left-wing, orange man bad complaining? Well, let's answer these basic questions about that at 6:35.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Once I realized I hadn't been fully informed, I sought to find the answer. Some of the answers I don't like.
On News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
The United States military attacking shipwrecked sailors.
We're taking the fight to the enemy, and we can already tell it's working.
Another stabbing by an illegal migrant.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Looks like winter might be packing up and taking a vacation of its own this week. I've got highs near 60 in the forecast through at least Thursday, if not Friday. And it all starts today under mostly sunny skies, up to 59 degrees this afternoon. A south wind light at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mild tonight, just a couple of clouds drifting by. Tuesday morning's low only 46, and then 60 for the high Tuesday afternoon. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
News Talk STL takes you live to Jefferson City for the 2026 Missouri Legislature opening session, Wednesday, January 7th. Mike Ferguson in the morning and former House Speaker Tim Jones and Chris Arps bring you exclusive coverage and insider access. We're live from the third floor of the Missouri Capitol beginning Wednesday morning at 5:30 and Wednesday afternoon at 3. Don't miss this special broadcast this Wednesday on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Brought to you by Americans for Prosperity. The Vic Porcelli Show.
It is an honor and a privilege to have U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt.
Hey, I have to tell you, I don't know if I've ever told you this. In the 90s, when would this have been? Mid-90s. Yeah. And I was I worked at Grant's Farm, and I had a couple other jobs. In the afternoon, I would often hear and listen to Porcelli's Deli on the radio.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making me feel older than I already feel. That's just great.
Vic Porcelli, live and local, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
1 in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in this country. That's the tragedy we must work to stop. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here, and that is why Reach Reproductive Health is here, to empower parents to save the lives of innocent children and to see these families come to Christ. And you can be a part of saving and changing lives. So pray and visit outreachforlife.org to learn more, volunteer, and donate. That's outreachforlife.org.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Hi, it's Ken. We had an amazing 2025, and thank you for having us along with you. Let's kick off the first show of 2026 with Vic Porcelli back in the seat. Join us Monday.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Happy New Year, News Talk STL listeners. This is Levi with Reach Reproductive Health. We could not be out here seeing parents empowered and babies saved without you and your support. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you and have a blessed 2026.
All right, this is Senator Chuck Schumer from This Week on ABC responding to the news that the United States put strikes in place and executed that search warrant and found Nicolas Maduro, arrested him just moments ago. He was unloaded off of a helicopter, and he's heading to the courtroom to be arraigned as we speak. But here's Senator Chuck Schumer's initial reaction.
They did not just do ships off the water. They went inside Venezuela, bombed civilian as well as military places. And it's a violation of the law to do what they did without getting the authorization of Congress.
Okay, so let's start there. Now, here's the thing, Susie, is we're going to have all day to talk about whether we agree, whether we disagree, what was good, what was bad, that sort of thing. But Nicolas Maduro is a bad guy. I think pretty much everybody agrees on that.
I think so, yeah.
He's the bad guy. But does the U.S. have a legal or a constitutional right to essentially invade and to capture him and either as a goal or as a side effect end up forcing a regime change in another country? I think these are fair questions
I think so.
to ask on this. And I think we should answer those before we get into all the politics of it. So we're joined now by Mike O'Neill from the Landmark Legal Foundation. And Mike, let me start right there. So regardless of whether you think this was a good or a bad thing from a policy or a military perspective, does it make a difference as to the government, Secretary Marco Rubio, for instance, saying we were executing an arrest warrant, and if regime change happened, well, so be it. The military strikes were there to protect law enforcement versus we're going to go in and topple a government. I mean, what are the specifics of what's okay and what's not under our laws?
Right. Multiple things can be true at once. Right. Happy New Year, by the way, everyone. So just absolutely. This was. Let me throw out a name, Manuel Noriega. I mean, there's precedent for this in the United States. I mean, if you want to go back, you can go back hundreds of years to this, especially in our hemisphere when you had incidents like this occurring. But just most recently, you had Manuel the apprehension. And I mean, I don't call it an invasion. I mean, everybody says invasion, but when you think invasion, you think Iraq, right? Divisions going in, boots on the ground, occupying space in the country. We don't see that. This is a lightning strike. This was an apprehension. Obviously, the military was used, but it was primarily a law enforcement operation. And when you contextualize that, a law enforcement operation to apprehend, detain, and bring Nicolas Maduro to the United States to face criminal charges. And when you contextualize it in that way, then certainly the United States has every right under our law to do this, under the Constitution to do this. The president has the power under Article 2 of the Constitution to do this. And again, this is something that's been done before. And Chuck Schumer, I mean, that's just rampant politicization. He had advocated for this during the Biden administration. Remember, there was a warrant out for Nicolas Maduro's arrest since 2020. We're talking 5 years. The Biden administration had put out a $25 million reward for Nicolas Maduro. So that's just rampant politics that Chuck Schumer is saying. He has to go out there to placate his radical leftist base. But legally speaking, certainly the president is on strong legal footing. There is case law supporting this. The 11th Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the conviction of Manuel Noriega over 30 years ago. And so I think the president is on very solid, both legal and constitutional grounds to take the action that he took. And then again, when you contextualize this as primarily a law enforcement operation to bring a fugitive to justice into the United States. And that's exactly what's happening, right? He's being detained. He's in the U.S. criminal justice system right now. He's going to face an arraignment today. Is it today?
Yeah, they're going on right now.
So so he's in the custody of the Department of Justice in the federal prison facilities. He's not on Guantanamo Bay, right? He's not at Gitmo. Think about what we did with Al Qaeda guys to put him at Gitmo. He's in the criminal justice system facing an indictment. He's going to have representation. I'm sure he's going to have great lawyers representing him throughout this entire process. So he's going to face due process. And so I think that the president is on very strong legal grounds. I don't see any court throwing out this indictment or dismissing this indictment or somehow returning Maduro to Venezuela.
Mike, I was doing a little bit of the research on the background on this case, which, I didn't know a whole lot about before this weekend. I think this is like the fourth superseding indictment in the case. This has been going on for a long time.
Right.
One of the questions that I had, though, was that and this is not my area of specialty, there's some understanding that as long as the president notifies Congress within 48 hours of taking certain actions, that allows, that allows for him to maybe take the action before letting them know. Is this going to fall under that category? Do you know?
I don't think so. I think if the president or the Secretary of State or whomever, Secretary of Defense, can properly explain the fact that there is a legitimate concern of a leak that would jeopardize the operational security of the operation, then I think that they don't have to notify Congress. And I think that's what you saw here. The way people contextualize this as a standing military operation, I mean, that would be problematic. Remember, you have that 60-day emergency procedure when you're talking about if you're gonna execute any kind of military operation that exceeds 60 days, you have to have some sort of congressional approval for that. But this is a lightning strike when you think about it in that context. This is the United States law enforcement operation going in, and you say, well, why is the military needed here? The military is needed because they need to protect and defend those executing an arrest warrant. Right, so you had DEA agents, at least from what I know, that you see the picture of Maduro being hauled out, and there's DEA agents there. So it was law enforcement officers of the United States executing a criminal warrant. And then the reason why the military was used, again, when we're talking purely the legal, not the geopolitical implications of all this, but we're talking strictly on the legal aspects of this, you needed the United States military to protect and defend those law enforcement officers who were executing a criminal warrant. And if you strictly stay within that context, and I think that's the facts that are going to be operative when we're talking about the trial, the indictment, the prosecution of Nicolas Maduro, these are all the facts that are going to be relevant. And I think when you talk about the geopolitical implications, that's going to be secondary to what we're discussing right now.
All right, that voice you're hearing is Mike O'Neill from the Landmark Legal Foundation. So let me do one more question on this aspect of it, and the arrest warrant, and what you just described is what some U.S. senators like Mike Lee and some others have said, well, this is how Secretary Marco Rubio explained it to them. So far, right, the Republicans at least are satisfied with that answer. How does a warrant issued in a U.S. court have worldwide jurisdiction? I mean, is there an issue with the sovereignty of another nation?
Yeah, certainly. We're talking about conflicts of laws issues here, and you could talk about international law versus U.S. law. And there is actually an attorney general. Congress really hasn't written any laws on this, but there has, to the extent to which it's been addressed by courts, there's really an AG opinion from Bill Barr, nonetheless, from years ago that addresses this. And when you have a conflict here, when you say the United States has to execute a domestic warrant. Again, that's a federal warrant here that's issued in the United States, and it might conflict with international law. Well, of course, the American domestic law is going to trump, pun included, is going to trump international law. And again, I think that's the fact that the president has the Article 2 authority to execute the laws of the United States. And when you're talking about a conflict of international law versus American law or constitutional law, the American law and the Constitution trump the international law. So if there is any kind of international law that could be brought in that might be relevant, I don't think that's going to be dispositive in a U.S. court.
What about a conflict with Venezuelan law or Venezuelan jurisdiction?
No, again, yeah, that comes into, again, you can look in here, the president to faithfully execute the laws of the United States. And even if that means, again, going in, think about the president, Manuel Noriega from 1989, right? If you're going to go into a foreign country, even though the president of that country might claim some sort of sovereign immunity, that isn't going to hold any water in a U.S. court. Again, 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, the Noriega case is I think controlling in those situations.
So, Mike, the running joke has been, how long is it going to be until a federal judge finds a way to throw this indictment out or that sort of thing?
Yeah.
This doesn't strike me as the type of situation where we're likely to see, at least not, right off the bat, some sort of partisan action by even though it's Alvin Hellerstein, who I don't think is necessarily a big fan of the Trump administration.
Right.
This doesn't strike me as the type of case where we're going to see those types of shenanigans, judicial activism in
Right.
play. But do you
No.
see some weaknesses here from a legal standpoint?
I don't really, not real. Well, yeah, certainly a jury in New York.
Well,
that
that's
might
true.
be that's probably a weakness. I mean, that is an interesting point. The venue, I think we're talking Southern District of New York, and so you do have the potential. That is certainly a factor that the federal government's going to have to consider here is the composition of a jury and the fact that you might have some, for lack of a better term, just crazy lefties on there that are just so Trump derangement syndrome, just don't see through the facts and the law here. And I mean, keep in mind the facts of this. This is an individual who's head of a narco-terrorist organization. That's how the Secretary of State really contextualized this over the weekend, is that there is not a recognition of the legitimacy of Maduro as president of Venezuela. The United States, from a legal perspective, views him as the head of a drug cartel, of a narco-terrorist organization, something Del Sol, I think it was Cartel del Sol, right?
Yeah.
So I think when you contextualize it and that's the framework that we're going to be working under in a court of law, that this isn't the president of some sovereign country. And he wasn't recognized as that. I think he was illegitimately put in power in Venezuela, and that's all going to be operative here. That he is no different than a head of a drug cartel being brought into the United States for prosecution for violating U.S. laws. So the only probably the biggest speed bump that I could possibly foresee is that the composition of a jury in the Southern District of New York might be something to consider.
Okay, just got a minute or so left. Mike O'Neill from the Landmark Legal Foundation. Now we're getting some, I guess, mixed messages and confusion, but the president has said a couple of times, well, in the meantime, we're going to run the country, and then basically we're going to. That to me is real. That rubs me the wrong way. I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, we executed the warrant according to our laws, and as a result, there's a void there. But do we have any authority or right to basically pseudo run another country's government after we've arrested the guy who was in power, legitimate or not?
I think when you're talking about that, you're you're kind of in the realm of international diplomacy at this point, right? You're kind of out of the law. You're out of the realm of the legality of the propriety of the prosecution here. The United States, I mean, this is kind of akin going back into Iraq. Do we want to have some sort of authorization of use of military force? The extent to which we're involved, I think there's a lot of facts that need to be kind of taken into consideration. What does it mean when the president says we're going to run the country? I mean, are we are we exercising diplomacy to assert pressure over the people who are currently in power? I think that they have a vice president who now is elevated to president. They have some sort of Supreme Court there. They have people in power. So I think what it comes down to is the details of what the president means. If we're exercising pressure, diplomatic and militaristic pressure to influence how these people behave within their country, I think that might be in the safe. But if we're kind of bringing in some sort of American, some sort of American designee who's going to run the country, that might be a little more problematic. Certainly the president's statements will not necessarily be helpful in a prosecution of Maduro, but I think it's not going to be dispositive from a legal perspective.
All right, Mike, once again, appreciate the perspective, the framing of this here. We've already tagged you on social media. What's the website people want to get in touch with you all?
Yeah, landmarklegal.org, landmarklegal.org.
All right, great. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
We'll be continuing these discussions and bringing you the updates as we get them. Later on today, actually, Congressman Dr. Bob Onder is going to give us his take at 7:35. But we know some of you guys are going to be busy out there, so if you can't make it for that, we do upload the podcast after each show, and you can share the discussions we're having with those that need to know.
Here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
People ask all the time, who the heck is Low Cost Airlines? Well, we're not just one airline. When you're talking to us, you're talking to everyone. We are the discount supermarket for all airline tickets. Plus, we have all the airlines and always have the best prices. American, Delta, United, plus all the specialized international airlines and a lot more. And we make it easy. We guarantee you'll talk to a live human in 60 seconds. You can have the rates you need and have your trip booked in 5 minutes. Now, how cool is that? And remember, when you're talking to us, it's like talking to every single airline available with one fast phone call. All you need to do is call and find the best prices to fly wherever it is you want to go. So are you ready? Call Low Cost Airlines right now. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Just capture a one-man like we're talking about with Mike O'Neill here. And did we just conquer a nation? I just saw a news headline that says Trump talks about taking over Greenland again. If you're in Greenland, you're like, oh, crap, this guy will do it.
Well, the good thing, the saving grace for Greenland is I don't think their leader is under indictment in the U.S. or anything like that.
Yeah, but President Trump's basically like, no, we want that.
Yeah.
And he's also given some, thoughts. Hey, that maybe there's other dictators we're going to go get, And so at some
keep
point,
them guessing. Keep them guessing.
Point you're like, okay, we got to define a lane here at some point. Oh, my goodness. Also, both Missouri and Illinois lawmakers headed back to work for 2026 here in the next days and weeks. And Blues still hovering right around that 500 mark. Is that going to be good enough to get them in the playoffs here in a little bit? We're going to find out here in a little bit. All right, 6:49 right now. Let's go ahead and do another news dump.
The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks, the Morning News Dump.
Okay, President Trump, as I'm sure that you have heard by now, announcing that a military strike has resulted in the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, and Maduro has been taken to a courtroom literally moments ago where he's going to face arraignment in a few minutes on drugs and weapons charges. Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs Tricia McLaughlin was on Fox's The Big Weekend Show.
Hundreds of thousands of Americans and American families grapple with overdoses, hundreds of thousands of deaths. And Nicolas Maduro is largely responsible for many of these, funneling deadly drugs into our borders.
Okay, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries was on Meet the Press on NBC giving his take on the operation, which, by the way, Congress, for apparently the most part, was not told of this before it happened. The White House and Department of Homeland Security saying, yeah, somebody would have jabbered. And they would have let the cat out of the bag. But here's what Hakeem Jeffries had to say.
This was not simply a counter-narcotics operation. It was an act of war. It involved, of course, the Delta Force, and we're thankful for the precision by which they executed the operation and thankful for the fact that no American lives were lost.
Also, the president saying that American oil companies are going to be allowed into Venezuela now and will be able to sell oil to neighboring countries. I'm going to be really honest. I'm kind of skeptical, and I do think that oil has something to do with this.
I think it does, but I also think that there might be an argument that is a little different than what people are thinking. In other words, this isn't necessarily about acquiring the oil for the U.S., but preventing its use by China and Russia and our adversaries. In other words, kind of pushing out their influence in our backyard. So I do think it's a factor. And obviously, the U.S. has been very involved in the oil industry in Venezuela over the years. So it's not coming out of nowhere. But I think it has more to do with keeping them out than it is about us saying, oh, we've got more oil, because we have access to plenty of oil.
Oh, we got lots of oil right here under our
Correct.
soil. Yeah,
Correct.
without a doubt. All right, so the Senate, now following up on what Hakeem Jeffries said, the Senate likely to vote on a war powers measure following what happened over the weekend. This is the report from Bernie Bennett in Washington.
Virginia Democrat Senator Tim Kaine said that he will force a vote next week to block further military action against Venezuela without congressional approval in the wake of President Donald Trump's operation to capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said he expects further briefings from the administration on this operation as part of its comprehensive counter-narcotic strategy. House Speaker Mike Johnson added that the Trump administration is working to schedule briefings for lawmakers when they return to Washington. I'm Bernie Bennett in Washington.
Okay, so essentially what we have here, Susie, is you can't make this too simple because there's a lot of complexities and a tremendous amount of nuance. If this was a law enforcement action, then the administration is saying this was legal and not an act of war, therefore none of the War Powers Act comes into play. If this was an act of war, then that's a whole different thing.
It is, and I think it's interesting that they're talking about this War Powers resolution because as of right now, it doesn't seem like the administration is saying, yeah, we're going to keep on doing operations in Venezuela in a military sense. So it's kind of like they were in and out. So you can say you can't have any more military action there, and it's going to be like, okay.
Yeah. Now, I will say this, in some of the stories I've read about this, what is being released, apparently we had a exact scale model of Maduro's house built somewhere in this country, and they have been rehearsing this for a long time. And it sounds like this was, whether you agree or disagree with it, a really badass action movie sort of thing that happened.
I, in some ways, want to liken it to the strikes in Iran to take out their nuclear facilities. That was done without it getting leaked out.
Right, yeah.
Without notifying Congress ahead of time. Funny how that kind of goes hand in hand, right? And it was done with precision and done very effectively. And we're seeing that here. Just like when they boarded the tanker, their initial tanker that they took control of. It is, look, you kind of want your country to be a badass.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
So yes, you want to be doing what it's doing legally, but
you want to use your badassery in the right way.
Correct.
But badassery can be done.
But it's kind of cool to see us being like that, assuming it's being done the right way. I guess is the point.
Yes. All right. A little closer to home here. Missouri lawmakers start the 2026 session on Wednesday with tax reform being the main agenda item for the governor and for the top Republicans. Very seldom do you hear, I think, the governor and the leaders singing the exact same tune on the priorities for a legislative session. They're usually in the same ballpark, but they seem to be saying the exact same bullet points. So I'm going to overuse a term, cautiously optimistic.
Right there with you.
That we're actually going to see the state income tax eliminated and see some major changes as far as limiting property taxes and things like that. So there's a lot to be done. Illinois State House not going to go back to work until the 20th. We're going to talk to State Representative Adam Neimerg here in just a little bit. State Senate on the Illinois side, nothing on the calendar for the next couple of weeks. Members of Congress arrive back in Washington today.
That's true.
We're going to talk to Bob Onder in about 30 minutes here. Okay, a U.S. House committee planning to hold a hearing on the fraud scandal that's been going on in Minnesota. Governor Tim Walz has been invited to testify in front of the committee. Congressman James Comer out of Kentucky was on Hannity's special discussing these upcoming hearings.
The mainstream media is finally starting to cover it. They thought it would just be a 24 or 48-hour news cycle, but this is what the American people are interested in.
So the U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is going to hold a hearing that they are calling Oversight of Fraud and Misuse of Federal Funds in Minnesota, Part 1. That's going to happen on Wednesday.
Part 1.
Part 1. Not as much of an action movie title?
No. I just feel like there could be, 20 more parts to that.
And there probably will be. Oh, man. All right. So with the Obamacare subsidies expiring as of the 1st, both Republicans and Democrats not anywhere close to an agreement as far as what's next. Congresswoman Nicole Maliotakis, a Republican out of New York State, was on Fox Business Network's Maria Bartiromo's Wall Street, explaining how she thinks both houses can come to an agreement before another shutdown.
This is going to require a bipartisan solution, and what I think eventually plays out this month is that
you see a bill going over to the Senate, and I think the Senate will work with us on the proposal that we put forward, Brian Fitzpatrick, myself, and a bipartisan group of Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, there's a chance that there's another shutdown come the end of the month.
So there's a chance.
There's a chance.
Now, there's less of an appetite for it.
Yeah, it won't be as broad of a shutdown because some spending things have been approved.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be as much, but it's possible something could happen.
Yeah, we're going to hear a lot of caterwauling about it between now and then.
Yes, bonus points for using the word caterwauling. I like that. All right, the Blues have been off for a couple of days. They're going to be back on the ice on Wednesday. They will be taking on the Blackhawks in Chicago. Blues right now 17, 18, and 8 on the season.
Hi, I'm Dr. Alan Link, owner of the Dental Link. You've heard ads about teeth in a day, but did you know that you will be chewing on plastic, acrylic teeth? Here at the Dental Link, we can give you porcelain crown and bridge teeth utilizing mini dental implants that function much more like real teeth at about half the cost. Plus, mini dental implants are less invasive, less painful, and your recovery time is much shorter. Give us a call at 314-794-6464 or simply visit us today at thedentallink.com.
Is diabetes keeping you from enjoying life's special moments? At U.S. Med, we understand the challenges you face, and we're here to help.
With U.S. Med, I can finally manage my diabetes without it managing me.
U.S. Med offers a wide range of services to simplify your diabetes care. Personalized care plans, convenient access to cutting-edge diabetes tech, and knowledgeable support. Plus, we'll check your insurance so your diabetes care may be covered at little or no cost to you.
With U.S. Med, I feel confident and control of my diabetes. I can finally live my life to the fullest.
Don't let diabetes hold you back. Choose U.S. Med and experience better birthdays, better adventures, better anniversaries, and better everything. Call now. U.S. Med. Better service, better care. 800-515-2380. 800-515-2380. 800-515-2380. That's 800-515-2380.
Because truth matters.
Let's speak that truth.
Because understanding matters.
Let's break this down.
With all that's happening.
And it's happening a lot faster.
What matters most is...
the only question that matters here.
Are you informed?
Important issues that are facing this country.
Depend on us.
The latest events.
The information you need.
Here are the facts.
When you need it.
We always have great conversations.
You guys have a great radio station.
101.9 and 94.1. News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. Amit Thomason. It seems Venezuela's acting president, former Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, has seen the light after a tirade against the United States over the raid that toppled dictator Nicolas Maduro. Now Rodriguez is offering to work with the U.S. The change of heart follows a stern warning from President Trump.
The president said Vice President Delcy Rodriguez would face a situation probably worse than Nicolas Maduro if she doesn't cooperate with the U.S. He initially praised Rodriguez on Saturday after the capture of Maduro, but told The Atlantic on Sunday that if she doesn't do what's right, she is going to pay a very big price. Later, aboard Air Force One, the president predicted Cuba's government could soon collapse, and he repeated his desire to take over Greenland. Greg Clugston, Washington.
The Trump administration's ultimate goal for Venezuela.
Here's the bottom line on it is we expect to see changes in Venezuela. Changes of all kinds, long-term, short-term. We'd love to see all kinds of changes. But the most immediate changes are the ones that are in the national interest of the United States.
Secretary of State Rubio on NBC's Meet the Press. Maduro and his wife indicted on drug-related terrorism and other charges, slated to make their first court appearance today in New York. We'll get more data on the economy today, and economist Steve Moore would not be surprised to see more encouraging news, especially when it comes to the job market.
Right now, things are on a really good path. And right, by the way, there's 7.5 million job openings today. Anybody with a useful skill can find a job.
More on the Salem Radio Network. Will Minnesota Governor Tim Walz throw in the towel in his re-election bid? We'll find out later today when he holds a news conference. Amid the Somali fraud scandal, there is speculation that Walz will be bowing out. Watching Wall Street this morning, stock futures mixed. Dow futures are down 12 points, while the NASDAQ futures are up 163. More on these stories, townhall.com.
They say timing is everything in the gold and silver markets, and it's true. Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. Although you can buy at the right time, if you buy the wrong coins, you may not make a profit. When gold was $400 an ounce, many people were talked into buying high-grade old gold and silver collector's coins. Unfortunately, most of the people who bought these so-called semi-numismatic coins, like the $20 St. Gaudens and Liberty Head gold coins, have not broken even on their investment. Incredible, given that gold has risen approximately 525% since then. So while timing is everything, if you buy the wrong coins, the timing simply doesn't matter. Having a dealer who cares about positioning you in the right types of coins or bullion will mean more to your portfolio than anything else. That's why I deal with Nick Rovich and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. Or go to AmericanFederal.com. AmericanFederal.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Looks like winter might be packing up and taking a vacation of its own this week. I've got highs near 60 in the forecast through at least Thursday, if not Friday. And it all starts today under mostly sunny skies, up to 59 degrees this afternoon. A south wind light at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mild tonight, just a couple of clouds drifting by. Tuesday morning's low only 46, and then 60 for the high Tuesday afternoon. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
It's more than a rebellion. When your teen is slipping into drugs or alcohol, when social media and pornography consume their time and their mind, when depression and even suicidal thoughts cast a shadow over your home, as a parent, you feel powerless. There is hope. At Turnabout Ranch, troubled teens step away from the chaos and into a clarity of nature on a working cattle ranch. Care for horses, learn responsibility, build trust, and rediscover purpose. It isn't theory, it's real work, real therapy, real healing. Families from across the country have found transformation right here, just when they thought hope was gone. If your teen is struggling with addiction, harmful online behaviors, even weight management, call right now and get the help you all need.
800-219-2494. 800-219-2494. 800-219-2494. That's 800-219-2494.
Mike Ferguson.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Susie Moore.
They look very aggressive. I think they want to beat me up.
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice, drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, we are 2 days away from the Missouri legislative session. Conservatives have some big expectations. We want to get some big things done. So will those big things get done?
Well, are we talking about the strikes?
Well, that's just the tease.
I'm sorry, folks. I don't have all my caffeine in me to shot. So what I was going to say is, we are going to be talking about that, but we're also going to be, talking about what's your take on the U.S. strikes on Venezuela and the capture of Nicolas Maduro. So we're going to be talking about that more at 7:20.
Exactly. All right. We're now joined by State Representative Phil Oehlerking. And so, Phil, you're stocking up on your sleep because starting Wednesday, it won't be in as abundant of a supply. But let me start with that the sort of basis of the governor and the leadership of the Republican Party pretty much on the same page when it comes to things like tax reform and eliminating the state income tax. And so do conservatives have a lot of reason to be really hopeful for some big things getting done this year, or do we need to temper our expectations? What's your read going into the session?
Oh, good morning, and thanks for having me back on, everybody. I think there is a lot of room for optimism amongst conservatives when it comes to tax reform this year. We started off really well at the end of session when Speaker Patterson created an interim committee looking into property taxes. And that committee went all over the state. I think they had at least 5 or 6 meetings at various points of the state, talking to actual real people on the ground about how property taxes are impacting their budgets and impacting their ability to make life affordable for them. And so I think property taxes are certainly going to be a big issue for us to take a look at. However, as you said, the governor on down has been talking about the elimination of the income tax. And I think that I know they talked about it last year, and there was a lot of expectation about it last year, but this year he has talked about it at multiple different venues, some that I've been at, and I think that there is a great optimism as far as eliminating the income tax and starting us down that journey. Now, of course, the devil will be in the details. The governor is going to have his State of the State January 13th. I think that's next Tuesday. And at that point, I think he'll lay out a little bit more of what his vision is on what that looks like. But I expect, obviously, a very spirited debate about what the elimination of the taxes look like and any other taxes that may arise to take the place of the income tax and try to make up at least a little bit of the revenue.
Phil, this is Susie Moore. One of the questions I have about this is it does seem to be an agenda item that pretty much everyone is on board with, at least on the Republican side. So there's cause for optimism with it. But is this something that you would expect will get addressed like on the front end of the session, or will it drag out through the session? And even if there is a successful accomplishment with it, that's going to be in May.
It's hard to say. Part of the reason why I think there's optimism for the beginning of the session is because this is no small thing that we're doing. There's only 9 states in the country that have eliminated the income tax. Missouri, and the conservatives want Missouri to be the 10th. I think there's a lot of details that are going to have to be worked out. The bills that are going to be filed initially, of course, will probably not be the end result. So I would anticipate a lively discussion in the House. I don't think we'll have any problem passing it there. The narrative of the entire session, of course, will be what happens to that bill and any other bill that goes to the Senate. I think the Senate Democrats will certainly try to either stop it, they will try to modify it, and I think Senate leadership is committed, and certainly the conservatives in the Senate are committed as well, to making sure that this priority does get over the finish line. So I would love it if we could get it done by mid-March, the midway through the session. I also would not be surprised if it does actually go all the way till the end.
Yeah, and then you get into, the clock is ticking, and we've seen how that goes before, which is why I think Susie's question was a really important part of this discussion to say, because if it's really a priority, jump on it right up front so that you don't get to the gosh darn it, we tried, but the clock ran out part, which we've seen on other issues in the past years.
Well, and Susie is absolutely right to bring that up. I mean, there are plenty of instances where we have, we're at the finish line, and like you said, gosh darn it, golly, we just didn't get it done. I think this past session has proven that if the House and Senate leadership wants to get things done, we can do it. We passed a bill last year in a week. And so when House or Senate leadership says things take time, most of the time that's true. But on something like this, we should have a spirited debate because, like I said earlier, this is no small thing that we're doing. However, the end result should be the same, is that what we're going to do is aggressively draw down on the income tax to hopefully have it fully eliminated within the next couple of years.
And I apologize for all the harsh language that's been used in this interview so far. I'm just saying.
Golly gee.
Yeah.
Gosh darn. All right. So then this is kind of a related question, but is there a danger that item, that policy focus is going to suck the oxygen out of the air and overwhelm or overshadow other policy preferences, other agenda items that we'd like to see get passed this session?
I don't think so. I think, at least in the House, we have shown a capacity for tackling multiple big items throughout the session. One of the big things, of course, in conjunction with tax reform this year, of course, is going to be the budget. If we are going to be eliminating the income tax over the next couple of years and the revenues have started to draw down, especially considering that the federal money that has been with us for so long because of COVID is starting to dry up as well, I think what that's going to force the Budget Committee to do is to take a look at all the programs, which it should be doing anyways, of course, and try to figure out, all right, this program has been around for X amount of years. We're not really seeing a lot of progress with it. This program needs to go. And try to actually figure out what are the priorities that we want to get funded and what are boondoggles that just need to be absolutely erased to help make up for the difference. Because at the end of the day, I think there's going to be a lot of push, whether it's with the budget or with tax reform, to say, well, we need to replace this tax with another tax to make sure that we're making up with the revenue. Then that's not the goal. We're not trying to grow government. We're not trying to take more money out of my and yours pockets. What we're trying to do is pass a responsible, smaller budget and making sure that there is more money in everybody's pockets, while also making sure that we continue to fund the necessary services that I think everybody agrees that government has a responsibility to do.
Okay, so along those lines, the state auditor basically putting out a warning saying Missouri lawmakers need to cut spending or there are some big problems coming down the road, maybe not that far down the road, but down the road nonetheless. Is that something that is going to be taken to heart by lawmakers? Because you talked about this is a boondoggle, let's get rid of it. Common sense says, yes, absolutely, we should be able to cut everywhere, but politically, that's a lot easier said than done, it seems.
Absolutely. Everybody wants to be in a budget committee, be chair of budget when times are great and the budget is booming and we're able to dole out, money like Santa Claus. But over the last couple of years, and I think the auditor is right, last year was the first year, and don't quote me on this because I may be wrong, but it may be the first year since Republicans have controlled the legislature that we have passed a smaller budget than we did the year before. And so that's certainly a good start. But moving forward, I think what we need to do is, again, look at each program and, determine whether or not on its merits to decide is this a good one or not. But there is so much pork that is passed each year through the guise of economic development. If we stop subsidizing a lot of these programs to allow for supposedly economic development, which many studies have shown that ultimately end up costing taxpayers more than the amount of money that we would get out of it, or at least what the people propose, there's a lot of room for cuts when it comes to that. But I have confidence in our budget team. Dirk Deaton is our budget chair. He is a great conservative. I think he also has taken a look at this budget and is going to be working with the new budget chief over in the Senate to take a look and see where we can cut, what is a priority, and pass a smaller budget this year than we did last year.
Phil, we've seen a lot of talk, obviously, on the national level about the doging of the government. And then on top of that, with all the fraud scandal that's been busting wide open, particularly in Minnesota, do you feel like this is a good chance for the Missouri legislature to capitalize on the sort of the push for doing away with waste, fraud, and abuse and actually use that to its advantage when it comes to, maybe narrowing the spending a little bit and getting a budget that's more reasonable?
Absolutely. I think everybody's been taking a look at what's been going on in Minnesota, and I'm sure there's plenty of my colleagues who are wondering, are there such things going on inside of Missouri? And if so, how can we address that to make sure that we can take care of the fraud and try to prevent that? I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is make sure that, Missouri government, the Missouri budget, Missouri fiscal policy is working for the betterment of each Missourian. And so that way what we can do is bring more people into the state of Missouri, and also ideally bring more business into the state. Because, the governor always talks about when he goes out to other parts of the country or other parts of the world trying to sell Missouri as a place for investment. And, you have states like Tennessee and Florida that can go out and say, we don't have an income tax. And so what we want to do is try to grow Missouri responsibly in a fiscally responsible way. So that way, Missouri can continue to grow. But fraud is certainly going to be something that I think a lot of people are going to be focused on as well.
All right, State Representative Phil Oehlerking, we're going to be there on opening day, too, so we'll see you. Stop on by, and we'll say hi on Wednesday.
I look forward to it. To your point about the sleep, I think, as time in the early times, there's plenty of time for sleep. But I think once we get past March, that's when the coffee starts to flow and and we get ready for the long nights.
Where do I get coffee on Wednesday, by the way?
So there's actually a coffee station right in the rotunda. Now, of course, if you want the really good coffee, the Senate actually does have the better coffee. As much as it pains me to say that, but I think maybe their budget is bigger on coffee than it is. Now, if you're really good, what I would do is try to get invited to the governor's mansion for some sort of event, because I went there a couple times this year. The coffee they serve is second to none.
Top notch.
Thanks, Phil.
Top-notch coffee.
Noted on
You're
that.
welcome.
Thanks a lot, Phil.
All right, what's next when it comes to Venezuela? Congressman Bob Onder has the update for us on that at 7:35. But at 7:20, let's dig into how the St. Louis area is reacting to the capture of Nicolas Maduro and the fall of his regime there.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I like it, but they're going a little overboard with the dancing.
On News Talk STL.
You want to give me more information.
Colombo and Company.
Join us every day for conversations with a wide variety of guests as we keep you informed and up to speed on all the important news and headlines you need to know.
Live and local weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with this free call. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk. Live and local.
I need to know what's going on in my city.
News Talk STL.
Happy New Year. Daryl Jones here, president of the Herzog Foundation. I love talking with my buddy Mike Ferguson on Mike Ferguson in the Morning and being part of the News Talk STL lineup. We get to dig into the issues that really matter to Christian families across the country. As we head into 2026, I pray God's richest blessing to you. I hope you'll continue tuning in, and don't forget to catch the Lion Weekend Review every Sunday morning at 10:30 right here on News Talk STL.
All right, both celebrations and protests in St. Louis in reaction to the capture of Maduro. So what's your position on what happened? You can let us know at 314-912-1019, or, of course, send us a note on social media. And holiday time is over now.
It's true.
Obviously. Time to get back in the know. So, Susie, what should we check out first on Red State today?
This is the Red State Rundown.
First, I'm going to introduce an article by our columnist, Brad Essex. Brad suffers from cerebral palsy. So a lot of times what he will write about is sort of how Americans deal with disabilities and disabilities in the workplace. So he's got a great article up this morning called The Right Way to Deal with Invisible and Visible Disabilities at Work. Kind of an interesting read, a little different from what we're normally talking about in the morning. So I encourage you to check that out. It happened again. A woman in North Carolina was murdered by a career criminal. Over the weekend, Jen Van Laar has that story. When will it stop? Another North Carolina woman slaughtered by a mentally ill perp with a lengthy criminal record.
This would be the third one to hit the national headlines in the last, 2.5, 3 months?
Yep. And last but not least, we've been kind of hinting at this, teasing it, but there's a report out that Tim Walz is set to bail on his 2026 Minnesota governor's race. So he's going to have a press conference later today at 11 Central, and Rusty Weiss has that story up at Red State.
Okay, that could be huge.
It could be.
It could be really, really big. Now, Walz, if he does not run, would likely be replaced by somebody just as radical in Minnesota, but that will be fascinating if that turns out to be the case, and what connections, if any, it has with like the fraud and all this sort of stuff too. Yeah, interesting stuff. All right, redstate.com right there, 723. You saw on the news around St. Louis both celebrations of the fall of Maduro in Venezuela, and then, of course, the left-wing protests that were kind of pro-Maduro, but not really pro-Maduro, just really more anti-U.S. than necessarily pro-Maduro, because I want to be fair on this. So Channel 2 went out to Forest Park, where there was a protest against the U.S. operations, and then they kind of at one point were over the bridge right there. It was right around Kings Highway, right over 64. This is part of the story. Cameron Mendoza from Fox 2 had this report. So here is the report, and what you're about to hear are Macia Hulsman. That's going to be the first soundbite. She is from the Party for Socialism and Liberation, St. Louis. Next is Don Fitz from the Missouri Green Party, which is another basically socialist communist party. And then a guy who went by the name of Chris, and he is with a group called Veterans for Peace, but did not give his last name.
It's not too much of a surprise, really, because this has been ramping up for months. The Trump administration has been threatening to invade Venezuela.
Protesters acting quickly Saturday afternoon, heading out to Forest Park to protest, following the bombing of Venezuela and the capture of its president, an action by the Trump administration some people disagreed with.
It's been over 60 years, and every year that goes by, the U.S. is involved in some military adventure. There's many Americans, many St. Louisans who don't have the basic necessities of life. But instead of providing the basic necessities like health care, money's being spent on frivolities like this.
It's about energy. They've extrajudiciously, without any trial whatsoever, killed innocent people on the high seas. And now they've bombed a sovereign country and kidnapped their leader. What does that make us? We're supposed to be the bastions of freedom and justice and liberty and everything, and yet we violate it at every turn.
Okay, so that doesn't surprise me that that's coming from the fringe left, obviously.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's how they're going to spin it.
Yeah, and then so we'll get into let's dice that up just a little bit here in a couple minutes. Now, in the same report from Cameron Mendoza on Fox 2, she spoke with a woman who's from Venezuela but lives here in St. Louis. The woman did not want her name used on this, but this is her reaction. Let's just say she sees it a little bit differently than the communists who are protesting in Forest Park.
And it's making a nightmare in Venezuela. People that they don't even read the news, that they don't know the history. We have over 25 years of oppression and communism and socialism, and no one is doing nothing about it. Finally, tonight at 1 a.m., someone did something, and now it's just seen wrong.
A country and life for its people turned upside down. But the native telling us this was seen as something long overdue by Venezuelans.
So no one wants a war, no one wants fight, no one wants blood. They just want a positive transition, and we are ready for it.
Okay, and you can see that report on Fox 2's website and on their social media as well. So the one thing that was interesting was when you saw the video, and I saw a lot of different reports and pictures of the protests that were happening. Those were a lot of professionally made signs that were up within 12 hours of this whole thing. Now, some of those are just the standby, no war or whatever,
Sure.
kind of stuff.
Generic
ones. But then there was a lot of very specific Venezuela, signs that and banners that were printed up there, and those things went up fast.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
It kind of makes it seem maybe not organic.
Right.
Maybe a little astroturfed.
Yeah. So now, one of the things, if you didn't catch the conversation we had about an hour ago with Mike O'Neill from Landmark Legal Foundation, we got into some of those legalities that the activists that we're just talking about, because essentially you're walking a very thin line. If this is a law enforcement arrest warrant being executed, and that's the point, and then, if a regime happens to fall in the process, that's one thing. That's very different than the exact same thing happening, but with the purpose of let's topple a regime.
Yeah.
Now, that may sound like potato, but it's really not from a legal perspective.
It's not. And I mean, so what I think of is Libya and Gaddafi. Under the Obama administration, we were involved in regime change, legitimately. I mean, that was the aim, and it was military action, and it wasn't about enforcing an arrest warrant or taking him in for prosecution, and he was killed in the process. So I think it's important to, if people want to approach this intellectually honestly, to look at the situations and see what's comparable, what's not. I think Mike made some really good points about why there may be very sound legal basis for what was done here. I understand why people have questions.
Yeah.
I think some of the spin we heard there from the activists was a bunch of hooey.
But the questions are fair, and
the questions are fair.
We should be asking questions, especially to our side.
Yeah, no, I mean, it depends, I guess, on what you want. Do you just want to be a homer? Do you just want to be a partisan and, whatever your guy does is great? Or do you want to be someone who's got principles that you're standing on and remains intellectually consistent? That's your choice. But you have to, I mean, there is a distinction there. And I agree with you. I think the questions are fair to ask. I think the knee-jerk opposition to anything that Donald Trump or his administration does is, it's like we've all grown a little tired of that.
Right,
okay, like, we get it. You hate him. It's great. Whatever.
Enjoy your outing at the park.
Enjoy
with
your
signs.
outrage. Yeah.
Okay, so then the follow-up part is what's next. And so far, because my first reaction was, how is this going to be justified? Now we're hearing the answers, and I'm thinking, okay, I think I get that. I'm not an attorney. I'm not, but I kind of get it. I think they're making a solid case. I do have questions about jurisdiction within another country, but so far it looks like the legal footing is probably there because of the way this was done. This has obviously been planned for a very, very long time. The other question here, though, is what's next? Because the president has said a number of times, well, we're going to run the country. I've got a big problem with that idea, because at that point, aren't we just a junta installing, replacing one illegitimate government with a junta that we endorse? This isn't our job to run their country.
No, it's not. And I think sometimes, one of Donald Trump's biggest issues that he has is that he speaks in imprecise terms and kind of in broad strokes. Rather than and sometimes it's refreshing that it's not a bunch of legalese and political whatever, but it does lead to some confusion, and then you have to kind of do a little clarification and make sure. But I agree with you. We don't have any business running Venezuela. Do we have an interest in making sure that whoever is running it is going to be friendly to the U.S.? Sure. Yeah. I mean, they're right in our backyard. We do need to make sure that we're not going to be having somebody that's trying to wage war against us, but I do think there's limits to what we should be doing in relation to that.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see, to speculate what is next for Venezuela and what, if any, role the U.S. should have in it. We're going to actually ask Congressman Dr. Bob Onder about his thoughts on that coming up at 7:35, right after Larry Connor's commentary.
Mike Ferguson.
Will man it.
Susie Moore.
And woman it.
On News Talk STL. from the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Looks like winter might be packing up and taking a vacation of its own this week. I've got highs near 60 in the forecast through at least Thursday, if not Friday. And it all starts today under mostly sunny skies, up to 59 degrees this afternoon. A south wind light at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mild tonight, just a couple of clouds drifting by. Tuesday morning's low only 46, and then 60 for the high Tuesday afternoon. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
License number E2014A.
Hey, it's good to see you.
At Grasser Home Services, we're looking for happy plumbers to join our team. Plumbers who are polite, honest, and do the job right.
And love dogs. They must love dogs.
Plumbers who treat customers' homes with respect, care about the details, and show up on time.
Know a happy plumber who's great with dogs?
Have them call Grasser Home Services.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
Larry Connor's Commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit VincentsJewelers.com. This is Larry Connor's Commentary on News Talk STL.
So you know Santa has a naughty list. You don't want to be on it. You didn't want to be on Johnny Carson's list either. Yes, the Tonight Show host had a list of guests who were banned from ever appearing again, and probably a list of those who were never going to get on the first time. A lot of this detailed in the new book, Love, Johnny Carson. Among those banned, the original host of The Tonight Show, Steve Allen. He was a guest more than 60 times when Carson was hosting. But then a crew member on the show said, Steve Allen is rude to all of us. Carson didn't waste any time. Standing up for his crew, said Steve Allen will not be back. And the same thing happened with another guest that had 80 appearances. His name, Jerry Lewis. Ellen DeGeneres was also banned because she was told, don't tell a particular joke. She did anyway. What was the joke? I'm not saying. Carson's influence still lives. I don't want to be banned from anywhere. Then another guest that Carson booted was the guy that hosted The Tonight Show for 22 years after Carson left, Jay Leno. What was his issue? Well, Leno's jokes just didn't hold great response with the audience, and Carson didn't like them anyway. So Leno failed with the one audience member that really counted, Johnny Carson.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Previously, I've told you about dustless blasting, a special service offered by Wellington Environmental. It could work for you in your place. Recently, a crew removed a driveway sealer that had failed. The owner wanted to go back to the original concrete so it could be properly sealed. Dustless blasting worked. That homeowner is happy. Now, sometimes surfaces need pressure washing instead of blasting. In fact, there was an exterior stone fireplace cleansed by pressure washing, and when it dried, all the dark stain was gone. That stone had its original appearance. Wellington is versatile with blasting. Dustless blasting or whatever you need. They will evaluate and make a decision. How do you get them to your door? Very easy. Call 314-644-4930. 644-4930. Wellington Environmental, making your world great. In fact, be safe, be well with Wellington Environmental.
Here's my problem.
Completely agree with your sentiments.
He talks about we're divided. Well, yeah, we are.
And we need to wake up as a country and realize what's going on.
101.9 and 94.1.
Number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
This is Grant Black from the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University, wishing you and your family the happiest of New Years, filled with peace, purpose, and prosperity.
All right, was regime change the point or just an added benefit?
Cherry on top.
Cherry on top, yep. And more importantly, what's next when it comes to our involvement in Venezuela? We are now joined by Congressman Bob Onder. And Congressman, when did you learn of the strikes in Venezuela? Because, we're hearing, a number of Democrats, and I would say some Republicans are saying, yeah, we weren't briefed on this one. When did you find out?
Good morning. Yeah, it's great to be back. Well, I found out the same time everyone else found out. I found out through the news. We tuned into one of the media outlets on Saturday morning, probably Fox News, and found out about it. So no, I wasn't briefed ahead of time either.
Bob, I know you all are heading back to D.C. today. Do you expect, and there will be some briefings, do you expect that all of Congress will get a briefing, or will it just be select members?
Yeah, so today I think it will be the Foreign Affairs and Armed Services committees in the House that will get the briefing. I'm going to be on a plane this afternoon heading back. Tomorrow, we are going to be spending, we House Republicans are going to be spending all day at the Trump Kennedy Center talking about policy issues. I think many policy issues. It's going to be an all-day event. But of course, given recent developments, I think Venezuela will be top on the list, and President Trump will be meeting with us then. So, today I think it's the committees, the committees directly involved, and then tomorrow the rest of us.
Okay, so what's your assessment of what you know right now? I mean, obviously the argument is this was a law enforcement action and the military was there to protect that. And, oh, by the way, it turns out a regime we don't like has fallen in the process. That would be different legally than we went in to topple another government. But what's your assessment of what has happened? Because the follow-up question here in a minute is going to be, okay, what role, if any, should we have in running their country, which the president and some others have mentioned. But let's start with your assessment of where things are right now.
Yeah, I would say regarding the first part, there's a lot to talk about here. Mm-hmm. The first part, the legal justification. I agree with you and Susie, your analysis that hey, we're arresting a suspect with a warrant, an indictment in the Southern District of New York for drug trafficking. I think that's part of the story. And other parts of the story, though, are that ever since Thomas Jefferson sent the Navy to put down the Barbary pirates in 1801, presidents have taken military action many times without Congress to defend the interests of the United States and the safety of Americans. And I think this is another example of this, the Democrats howling about President Trump and this action. I want to know whether back when President Clinton bombed Yugoslavia for 78 days, where were they then? Or when Biden or Obama were doing cruise missile strikes in the Middle East. But, I think there are other elements that we've not been talking about. We talk about, Venezuela having vast oil reserves, of course. But we have other strategic, safety issues. The rare earth mineral crisis we experienced when China embargoed those. China has control over 91% of the Earth's rare earth minerals, and they are deeply involved in the supply chain in Venezuela. We know that Iran has drones that with a 2,000-kilometer range that could hit southern Florida in Venezuela, and we know Russia has military advisors in Venezuela. So I think it was the legal justification is, as we said, but I think there was a lot going into the decision to go in to Venezuela. What's next? We don't have a very good history of regime change or nation building, and I'm not at all confident that Delcy Rodriguez is going to be the ideal partner for peace and stability and a stable transition in Venezuela. So I look forward to learning more about what the plans are there.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of questions to be answered there, but it's good to ask them and good to have those conversations. You guys are going to be busy this month because not only is healthcare a priority, but the appropriations bills have an expiration date of January 30th.
Absolutely.
So what are you looking to, over the next couple of weeks, really be focusing on? What are you optimistic that you all will be able to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, that January 30th deadline for getting the rest of the budget bills done. Again, there are 12 budget bills that need to be done. 3 have been done so far when we reopened the government last month. But now, now we're looking at another January 30th deadline. And my fear is that Democrats believe that opposing Donald Trump is more politically popular, at least among their far left base, than doing the real work of government. And I'm afraid we might very well be headed toward another situation where the Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, make unreasonable demands, and we end up in another shutdown. I hope I'm wrong on that one. I think you'll see the House pass probably all of the budget bills by January 30th. But what happens in the Senate is a whole other story.
Okay, so would a lot of that have to do again with trying to bring back or renegotiate the Obamacare subsidies? We've heard some Democrats talk about that. Over the next couple of days, if Venezuela were not overwhelming the news right now, Maduro were not overwhelming the news, we'd probably be hearing a lot about those who don't get the subsidies anymore and all of the sob stories regarding that. Some Republicans, Nicole Malliotakis and some of the others, are saying, well, we're negotiating, we'll have something bipartisan. I'm hoping that there's not a debate to bring back the subsidies, but what is the conversation right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, remember the way the shutdown conversation, the continuing resolution conversation started this fall was that Chuck Schumer wanted, not only did he want the subsidies, and again, these are the COVID era subsidies. The Obamacare exchanges are still heavily subsidized with or without these COVID subsidies. He wanted those. He wanted all of the Medicaid reforms passed in the One Big Beautiful Bill repealed. He wanted all of the Trump rescissions and DOGE cuts nullified, and a promise of no future rescissions or spending cuts. So that was the Democrats' negotiating position. They kind of backed off. Now I think they'd settle for extension of these COVID subsidies. But look, these COVID subsidies, they're almost as bad a scandal of waste, fraud, and abuse as the Minnesota welfare program scandal. We know that 41% of the folks enrolled made not a single claim, which means many of them were phantom enrollees. People were being signed up by insurance brokers fraudulently. 2 insurance brokers in West Palm Beach, Florida alone did $233 million of fraud with these enhanced COVID subsidies. So this is a government program passed with only Democrat votes in the name of fighting COVID. COVID's been officially over for 2.5 years. It's time for those subsidies to expire and to move on. But healthcare will be a conversation this year, and including in this year's election, and it needs to be, because we have an affordability crisis in healthcare driven largely by Obamacare. It's the last time we need to double down on Obamacare dysfunction.
Bob, you mentioned the waste out of Minnesota and the fraud out of Minnesota. Obviously, that's been top of mind for a lot of people lately, and it sounds like there's going to be an oversight hearing, part 1, on Wednesday. As I said earlier, part 1 of 11. What other? I know that's going to be the oversight committee looking into that. What other committees do you think will be looking into these social welfare programs and government spending in relation to them, and the waste and the fraud that's been going on with them?
Yeah, I hope that all of the committees of jurisdiction look at those. Of course, food stamps or SNAP are under the Department or the Agricultural Committee. Several of these, Medicaid is under the Energy and Commerce Committee, and then there are these various housing programs. I think a lot of those were. I just cannot believe that Medicaid, which is supposed to be a health insurance program for poor people, is being used in Minnesota and California elsewhere for housing homeless people. That may be a good good cause. But talk about mission creep. I think almost every committee of jurisdiction is going to have something to look at in this Minnesota, just as one prosecutor put it, industrial level fraud, and of course the House Judiciary Committee, on which I serve, often does oversight in some of these areas too.
All right, Congressman Bob Onder, appreciate the update once again. Be looking forward to talking to you again next week from D.C. as well.
Looking forward to it. Have
Thanks,
a great
Bob.
week.
Thanks, Bob. Hey, you know what? We've been talking about some heavy news. We're going to talk about some good news up next, including, the confetti that rains down over Times Square on New Year's Eve. It isn't just plain old confetti.
Oh, okay.
When it comes to heating, cooling, and refrigeration, you want to trust the family that's been keeping St. Peter's comfortable since 1974. Pranger HVAC is small enough to care, but experienced enough to deliver. If you think you're being charged too much for a new system, you probably are. So you want to check in with Pranger. If you've got a competitor's bid, they will beat it by 20%, guaranteed. From home HVAC to commercial refrigeration, from beer caves to restaurant coolers, Pranger does it all. They're licensed, they're insured, they've got 100% customer satisfaction guaranteed. So if you're looking for advice or a consult or a new system in HVAC, you want to check out Pranger HVAC. You can call them at 314-640-9617, or you can find them on Facebook. They're family owned and they're customer approved.
They served our country with honor. Now it's our turn to serve them. Join the freedom13.org for an unforgettable gala honoring America's heroes, February 27th at the Foundry Arts Center in St. Charles. A special evening supporting Freedom 13's bold mission. 50 camps in 50 states on more than 50,000 acres, building 650 homes for veterans, police, and their families. Tickets and sponsorship opportunities are available now. Visit thefreedom13.org. That's thefreedom13.org.
Hey, Chris Arps from the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Make sure that you're listening to our show this afternoon from 4 to 6. Now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
Well, you're right. A lot of heavy stuff to start off the week. For a lot of people starting off the year as far as their news consumption goes. So I think that's why I need you to tell me something good.
Tell me something good.
I think I will.
Okay.
We had a story up this weekend from Sister Told Ya, Stacey Matthews, who's been a regular guest with us here on the show. It's called Keep the Faith, a refreshing bit of news to start 2026 on the right note. A growing number of people in America were choosing to pray to toast the New Year's Eve as well rather than drink.
Okay.
A new poll from Neapolitan News conducted by Scott Rasmussen found that more Americans reported that they would say a prayer going into 2026 than will imbibe in revelry with alcohol. Out of 1,000 registered voters, 44% would say a prayer, while 39% would have an alcoholic beverage, which is down 12 points from 2022. This tracks with a general trend of more prayer in America. Alcohol consumption has been trending downward in recent years. An August Gallup poll found that only 54% of adults reported drinking alcohol, the lowest rate in nearly 90 years of tracking, down from 62% in 2023. Interestingly, the numbers show that the drinking decline has been driven largely by younger generations, which is fascinating to hear when you consider how there seems to be an emphasis on drinking in just about everything you see on TV and the movies, whether it's beer, wine, scotch, whatever. As far as praying goes, Rasmussen pointed out in a tweet that it wasn't just that people were treating prayer as a unique thing to do at the end of the year, just that it was part of an everyday life practice. Important to note, these numbers reflect the reality that many Americans pray every day or on most days. So it's not a special New Year's prayer, just part of life.
Now, of course, if you drink enough on New Year's Eve, you'll end up praying.
Maybe in a way you don't want to.
That's right. You'll be praying for some kind of mercy.
Or praying to the porcelain god, as they say. We don't want that. So.
Tell me something good.
Okay, this warmed my heart. A tiny baby born with hands smaller than a fingertip is now home after a year and is developing normally. Okay. A premature baby born so tiny that his hand was smaller than his dad's fingertip is finally home and healthy after a year in the hospital. Gabriel Golden was born weighing 1 pound in September 2024 after just 22 weeks gestation. And his mom had a lot of pregnancy complications, hence his early delivery. He endured nearly a year in the Vanderbilt NICU in Nashville, Tennessee, battling chronic lung disease and multiple infections before his parents, Caroline and Gareth, were finally able to bring their son home 3 months ago. It was amazing that somehow, even though his finger was so small, I could feel his grip, his father said. The strength those tiny fingers held left me speechless. At 22 weeks and 4 days, Caroline went into labor during an emergency situation that put both their lives at risk. Gareth watched helplessly as medical staff rushed his wife to surgery. Against all odds, Gabriel was able to use the breathing tube and has survived. While Gabriel is home, he still requires a tracheostomy and faces respiratory challenges, but there's good news, too. By the grace of God, Gabriel is completely developmentally appropriate and has no brain issues, Caroline told a news agency. Other than his lungs, his body is in wonderful working condition.
Wow.
Amazing.
You know, my daughter was a preemie. Not
So was
that
mine.
preemie.
So was mine.
But the whole lung thing.
It's a big
you know,
deal.
Did your daughter have to get the surfactant and stuff? Yeah.
Well,
so
we didn't get the surfactant, which is why she had the issues.
yeah. So they had to. Amber was only 5 pounds, and that was scary. I couldn't even imagine
Same
1
with
pound. That's
Riley.
amazing. That's
It
just
is.
amazing.
All right, thousands of positive messages rained down with Times Square confetti to ring in the new year. As the famous New York City ball dropped downward to deliver 2026, a deluge of hopes, dreams, and wishes rained down in Times Square. I wish for more love and kindness in 2026. I wish for a good year with good people. Tons of messages from the Times Square wishing wall have been mixed in amid the abundance of multicolored confetti that fluttered through the Big Apple skies. For the past month, interested participants have been able to contribute their handwritten wishes for the new year in a broad assortment of colors, and people who weren't in the city were able to enter their submissions online. According to the Times Square New Year's Eve Wishing Wall website, whether it's a personal goal, a dream for the future, or doing something for the very first time, these wishes are added to over a ton of confetti that floats down at midnight onto the revelers gathered in Times Square in celebration of the new year. NBC News shared a sampling of the 2026 wishes in a December video on YouTube that you can watch in this article that I'm citing from. They included, I wish for a kinder, more peaceful world for my grandchildren to live in. My wish this year is to finish writing my book and have it change at least one person's life. I wish for a cure for type 1 diabetes. The wishing wall has attracted visitors from all around the world, from all races, religions, and nationalities. The notes were combined with the 3,000 pounds of confetti that was tossed into the Manhattan air at midnight to drift down through the crowds in Times Square crowd. We'll close out with a couple wishes. My wish is to continue to chase my dreams and never lose sight of who I want to be. And I wish for life to get a little bit lighter for all of us.
So basically, New Year's Eve celebration meets fortune cookies.
Yeah, but not even
in a positive
way.
Sure,
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's
Not
good.
bad. Not bad.
You want to know what the national days are this week?
Yes, I do.
I've got some for you. Today, Monday, is Keto Day.
Okay.
Yes, that's relatively new. Screenwriters Day. Okay. Thank God it's Monday Day.
What?
I don't know.
What?
Because it's the first Monday of the year.
What sick individual come up with that?
I don't know. And Whipped Cream Day.
Okay.
And it's also Bird Day.
Bird?
Bird.
As in like
Just
the
bird,
flying creatures.
as in the flying creatures that
Yeah.
some people are freaked out by.
See, Whipped Cream Day, I think my daughter may have come up with that. And she gets a piece of pie. Basically, she has a little bit of pie with her pile of whipped cream.
Yeah.
That's how she eats.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's legit.
Yeah.
That's legit. Tuesday is Cuddle Up Day.
Okay.
Technology Day.
Mm-hmm.
Shortbread Day.
Oh, I do love shortbread.
Bean Day. Bean. B-E-A-N. Bean.
Okay.
Just Bean Day. It's also happy anniversary to Mike and Rachel Ferguson.
That's right. Tomorrow, yeah.
It's
January 6th.
January 6th. Lucky you guys. Great anniversary date. It's Epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my addition. It's Take Your Christmas Tree Down Day.
There you go.
Wednesday is Bobblehead Day.
Can somebody explain the bobblehead phenomenon to me?
No, I cannot.
I mean, I've got a couple that I was at the ballpark when they were handing them out, but I
won't take them.
They are massively popular, and I've never quite understood the bobblehead thing.
Not a thing.
Again,
for me
I
either.
have a couple of them, but you know.
It's also Tempura Day.
Huh?
Tempura. You know, the food. Tempura.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's not a very exciting day for Wednesday.
Yeah, it's kind of like Bean Day.
I know. Like, woo, yay. Thursday is Career Coach Day. Winter Skin Relief Day.
What does that mean?
It means it's dry. It's January, and
so it's like the one day you go get skin cream.
Yeah. Now it's Joy Germ Day. I actually looked this up. That is, it's not an illness. It's when you're supposed to spread joy, like germs, like make joy go viral.
I'm a communications guy. I'm wondering who thought that the good branding for that would be Joy Germ.
I know. It's English Toffee Day.
Oh, I can't complain about that.
And it's Bubble Bath Day. Okay, I like that. I can get
Which
that.
contributes to the dry skin day.
Yeah, better use lotion. And then Friday, last but not least, it's Balloon Ascension Day. So this is only about balloons going up. It's not about them coming down. And it doesn't reference whether or not it's okay if they're traveling across the United States and spying on us in the process.
Right. Yeah.
It's Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, which is very important.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, we should do something. We should do something.
We absolutely should. It's Apricot Day. Okay.
Yeah, I'm ambivalent.
And it's Static Electricity Day.
Who has that much time on their hands?
Well, what's really funny is when I was preparing this last night, I'm typing it up, and my dog is over on the couch, and one of her favorite games right now is to wool around on the couch, and her fur is flying everywhere, and the static electricity is crackling through the air. She loves it.
See, when I was a kid, and back when shag carpets were the thing, what we could do, Jerome, is you could shuffle your feet, and then you'd build up the static, and you walk up, and you just tap somebody, and you zap them. That was a game that we played.
Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, we lived in Decatur, Illinois, and my dad pastored a church in Mount Zion, which is just outside of Decatur. Big, like, ugly, burnt gold-colored carpet that was shag and thick in the church. And that's what we would do after church is we would just shuffle around and just zap each other.
Oh, yeah.
After that. That was, probably why, that youth group didn't do much in life.
We had lots of fun as kids.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
No big old corporate lib AM station telling us what to say here.
Conservative talk for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1,
and always streaming at newstalkstl.com. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at
newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. With the toppling of Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro, what about fresh elections in the South American country? Secretary of State Rubio says not until we're sure that Venezuela is no longer involved in narco-terrorism.
Until they address it, they will continue to face this oil quarantine. They will continue to face pressure from the United States. We will continue to target drug boats if they try to run towards the United States. We will continue to seize the boats that are sanctioned with court orders. We will continue to do that and potentially other things.
Secretary Rubio on NBC's Meet the Press. Maduro and his wife are making their first court appearance today in New York. Maduro has been indicted on drug trafficking, narco-terrorism, and other charges. His wife is under indictment as well. Maduro's vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, is now Venezuela's interim president. President Trump says Rodriguez could end up worse off than Maduro if she doesn't cooperate with the U.S.
We have a very sick neighbor. It's not a neighbor, but it's close to a neighbor, and that's Venezuela. It's very sick. Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States.
And Mr. Trump says Cuba could be the next dictatorial domino to fall. The president being urged to give up on his Greenland dreams.
After announcing over the weekend that the U.S. would run Venezuela after removing its president, Donald Trump reiterated his wish to take control of Greenland. He told reporters, quote, "We need Greenland from a national security situation." Denmark's prime minister said a U.S. takeover makes absolutely no sense and that America has no right to annex any of the 3 countries in the Danish kingdom. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Ahead of the opening bell on Wall Street, the Dow futures are up 14 points. NASDAQ futures ahead 181. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Candles were lit on Bondi Beach by families, by children, by people of faith to celebrate a festival of light, a festival from Bible times, one that Jesus himself celebrated, but instead of light, there was darkness. Violence, fear, hatred, showing itself at a time meant for prayer and rejoicing. You know, it's times like this that remind us that even with a ceasefire in Israel, Jewish people are being targeted simply because of their faith. And at times like this, it also reminds us why the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews exists, to stand in the gap, providing safety and security to God's people. The fellowship brings together Christians and Jews to be a light to suffering Jews in Israel, the former Soviet Union, or wherever the needs are greatest. Today, Jewish people around the world face these threats and are so grateful for their Christian friends who stand with them. To find out how you can take part in this holy work, visit urgentifcj.org. That's one word, urgentifcj.org.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Looks like winter might be packing up and taking a vacation of its own this week. I've got highs near 60 in the forecast through at least Thursday, if not Friday. And it all starts today under mostly sunny skies, up to 59 degrees this afternoon. A south wind light at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mild tonight, just a couple of clouds drifting by. Tuesday morning's low only 46, and then 60 for the high Tuesday afternoon. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
If you're worried about losing your health insurance through Medicaid, we have great news for you. New government regulations have expanded the Affordable Care Act. And now you may qualify to get health insurance for you and your family through the Affordable Care Act. Call now to learn if you qualify. We know the healthcare regulations regarding Medicaid, and we've helped thousands of people find quality, affordable health insurance. Plus, all our research is free to you. So call us. With just one call, we'll shop from hundreds of different insurance companies to find you the right affordable health insurance plan. So if you're worried about losing your Medicaid insurance, call right now. Speak with a licensed agent and find how you may qualify for a new health insurance plan.
800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. That's 800-479-0931. Paid for by the Health Insurance Hotline.
Mike Ferguson.
Is there anything in your life that is not Trauma Olympics?
Susie Moore.
Get out of here and stop playing victim.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
There's no crying in baseball.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
This is Missouri Lieutenant Governor David Wassinger wishing everyone a Happy New Year.
All right, conservatives are in charge on the Missouri side when it comes to state government. In Illinois, not so much. What can we realistically hope for this year in the land of Lincoln's government? I'm Mike Ferguson. We're now joined by State Representative Adam Neimerg from our friends at the Illinois Freedom Caucus. And Adam, first of all, Happy New Year. Good to have you back on the program here. So, You've got really a couple weeks before things really kind of get rolling again. If I'm reading the calendar right this morning, looks like you're going to be back in probably on the 20th. What's kind of the preliminary stuff that's happening between now and then the official stuff, in a couple of weeks?
Well, thanks for having me on, and Happy New Year to all your listeners as well. In the next couple of weeks, what we're looking at is not a lot's going to be happening. So we have a little bit of session leading up to the March primary. Basically, I think it's going to be a lot of coming in, gaveling out, maybe a couple of things behind the scenes on some folks maybe trying to get some bills ready to be moved. But I don't see anything happening until after the March primary here on March 17th, and then I see some action happening, heavy action in April and May for the Democrats to try to set up their own party and our horrible Governor J.B. Pritzker for this November election.
Right. So we're looking at least, if nothing else, we're mitigating the damage between now and March. I mean, if they're not in session, Democrats can't do that much damage. But when you look at not just the Freedom Caucus, but the Republican caucus in general, what's going to be your outlook? Because it just seems like the plan is be on defense. What realistically do we need to be geared up to try to stop in 2026, much less try to get past? Because that's just the dynamic.
Well, first off, in the state of Illinois, there's a lot of work that we have to do. You made the comment that Republicans are in charge of Missouri politics, and I would really wish that was the way it was here in Illinois. But unfortunately, we're living in a world where Chicago really drives the bus here, and unfortunately, we have an enclave of progressivism in Chicago. We see what happened in New York with the new mayor of New York. We see socialism on the rise here in this country, and that's something that we have to push back against. The new mayor talked about replacing the rugged individual with warm collectivism, and that's very, very scary Stalinist talk. And in Chicago, we've seen the Safety Act. We have a sanctuary state policy, and we've seen a mayor in Chicago that has completely ignored the budget, completely ignored the will of the people. We see a governor in the state of Illinois that's done the exact same thing. We spent $3.4 billion on illegal immigrants. We have the highest combination of state and local taxes in the country. And really what I want to focus on as a Republican Party is a return to reasonable and the cost of living. We have outrageous energy policies driven by the woke agenda here in the state of Illinois behind the green initiatives. We have all these issues, high soaring pension costs, out of control government, an ever rising bloated government, and the cost of living really needs to get under control here in the state of Illinois.
Now, it may be hyperbole, but I saw a news article, I think it was last week, saying that energy crisis, that you were just talking about, that cost of energy crisis, saying that in Illinois, there could be some areas of the state that actually have energy shortages within the next 5 years, and a lot of that's going to be policy driven. What's scaremongering and what's real about that?
Well, what's real about that is the cost of energy has skyrocketed. It has gone up fourfold if you're an Ameren customer in the state of Illinois. I'm on an energy co-op, but they will need to renegotiate their rates here in a couple of years, and my energy rate, folks, what it really lines up to is the woke, climate change, global warming, whatever you want to call it, fear-mongering scare tactics by the left that's driving energy costs up. We're subsidizing wind and solar at an outrageous rate via the taxpayer, millions and millions of dollars. We're not doing anything to move the needle on coal and natural gas. As a matter of fact, we're outlawing that here in the state of Illinois. So really, it comes down to the Clean Energy Jobs Act that was enacted several years ago, and that needs to be repealed. We need to get back to the drawing board. We need to get our energy costs lower. We need to bring in the experts that actually know what they're talking about, rather than ponytail guys with man buns coming into the General Assembly. I sit on the Energy and Environment Committee. They come in and they talk about how we need to completely outlaw coal and natural gas and push more green energy. And the only way to do that, to lower costs, is to actually subsidize it more and bring more into the state. It's absolutely ridiculous. So we need to get back to the drawing board. We need to talk to the people that know what they're talking about, lower energy costs, and it is a real serious issue in the state of Illinois. And when you look at Chicago, ComEd, they're talking about giving a rebate to their folks up there, but the rest of the state, we're paying the price.
So Chicago's going to be kind of hopeless on this whole thing, but in other parts of the state, from Peoria, Moline on down, I mean, are there enough Democrats who are getting the word and feeling the heat on this, that there might be some hope of getting that act repealed and getting it replaced with something better, if not perfect?
I think they're feeling a lot of heat on this particular issue. But is it enough to actually repeal CJA? We will wait and see. I know that they know they need to do something. We're typically the last ones to know exactly what they're wanting to do, but they need to do something on this issue, and I think the heat is building on it. This is a multitude of issues. Like I had talked about, pension reform, cost of living, outrageous costs, the ever-growing government, CJA, the Clean Energy Jobs Act, energy, everything that has happened. And we're not even talking about the woke social issues yet that President Trump has done an excellent job pushing back on. We're talking about just, kitchen table issues, trying to budget, run your budget and do your checkbook. And we have a $55 billion budget in the state of Illinois that's grown exponentially from $36 billion to $55 billion when I came into the General Assembly just in 5 years. So whenever you have a nanny state and an ever-growing government and a government that compares that really looks at the green energy and looks at these woke initiatives and something about these enclaves of progressivism where they want to change the very fabric of this country because they think that they have to challenge the status quo when we're the best country that's ever been founded in the history of this world, it really makes one sit back and wonder what we need to do next. And that's what we really need to focus on in these November elections is getting the low propensity Republican voter out, ballot harvesting, getting down into the mud and the dirt, so to speak, with the Democrats. We have to play that game because that's what's legal here in the state of Illinois. Then we can get to same-day voting and paper ballots. But we really need to be focused on this. And then we need to fundraise. Fundraising is big. And then lastly, we need to follow up with more of a populist message backed by free market conservative principles in Illinois, because that's what Trump did on the national stage. And folks here in the state of Illinois want change. They're tired of the country club Republicans. They want something different. They want the people put first. And that's something that we need to do as Republicans.
So who's going to be the right messenger? Maybe not necessarily. I'm not asking you to pick a horse in the governor's race unless you want to, but whoever it is that's going to be that nominee, what are they going to need to bring? Because even if the odds are against him in the race for governor, boy, that could really help down ticket, I would think.
Oh, yeah, I'm very happy that you brought that up, especially the down ticket issue, because messaging from the top is very important. So when we look at this November election, I think what the Republicans need to be focused on, whoever comes out of this primary, is cost of living for every average citizens, working class Illinoisans that are going to be paying their property taxes shortly before this election, that are worried about their insurance premiums that are skyrocketing whenever it comes to affordable health care and reforming the health care system, which is a boondoggle and something that's going to be very difficult to do, but it needs to be tackled. Pension reform. What can we look at? The cost of government, cutting the cost of government and making sure that the pensions that are out there are paid to the people that have earned the pensions, but going forward doing something a little bit different. This all needs to be done a particular way with correct messaging to make sure that we're helping the people of the state of Illinois, listening to the people rather than the politicians or the special interest groups. That's what I think is very important. We need to get the message to the people, but that message has to be carried financially. You can yell in a parking lot all you want if nobody is there and nobody's there to listen and there's no media and there's no money to back it up. You can have the best ideas in the world, but you have to have financial backing in order to get that message out to every corner of the state of Illinois. Then you have to go into Chicago and you have to drive these messages home. You have to talk about illegal immigration. You have to talk about what Chicago Public Schools has done to the city and the children of the city of Chicago. You have to talk about certain issues on the woke agendas that the radical left is putting out and what they want to do with gender hormone treatment for young kids, et cetera, going down that list. These are all things that need to be talked about. And you can't shy away from any of these issues. You have to hit them head on, and that's how you're going to be able to at least get close to not defeating Governor J.B. Pritzker. You need the money, the backing, the populist message, and you need to get the low propensity Republican voter to turn out, because election turnout in the last few gubernatorial elections has not been what I'd like it to see. It needs to get up higher. And the way you do that is you chase down low propensity Republican voters, get them out to vote. That happened in Pennsylvania. They're able to flip Pennsylvania for Trump. That's how you win in this November. And also it goes down to, at my level, state rep and even the state Senate, flipping some seats with that populist message, with that message of getting back to the people and not being scared as a Republican to really take on these controversial issues, especially talking about cost of living. But one thing that needs to happen with that is you're going to have to ignore the special interest groups and get right down to the people, which is very, very hard for both sides of the aisle to do.
All right, we're visiting with State Representative Adam Neimerg, member of the Illinois Freedom Caucus. Just got a minute or so left, Adam. Illinois was in the national news right as we were going into the end of the year. Governor Pritzker singing the praises of a new law that basically brings doctor-assisted suicide into Illinois. It's one of the few states now that has legalized that, and that caught the attention, I think, of a lot of people, not just in the pro-life movement, but really across the country. What's your reaction, and what does that say about the direction on those social issues that the Illinois Democrats want to take the state?
Well, I think it says a lot. It says that we're ignoring life here in the state of Illinois. Not only at the beginning of life, where we, here in Illinois, you can have a full-term partial birth abortion of a 14, 15, 16-year-old, and the parents don't even know that it happened. I mean, we're the most progressive state in the union when it comes to abortion. And you take it on the assisted suicide. So at the end of the life, if they say, well, your life doesn't have value, or you're having these issues, you can have assisted suicide. So it goes against the very fabric of who we are as a country. And you look at other countries throughout the world that are doing this, and basically you can just go in, say you're not feeling well, especially in Sweden, say you're not feeling well, take this pill. As long as you're of sound mind, they'll allow you to kill yourself, essentially. So it's very sad to see this happen. I'm very happy that the Pope mentioned that he spoke with Governor Pritzker on this issue whenever Governor Pritzker visited with the Pope, which I was kind of hoping there'd be a little bit more hard-hitting, statements put out by the Pope when it came to meeting with Governor J.B. Pritzker, because he's not with us on these issues. But I was very happy to see the Pope talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago, how he urged the governor to veto that terrible piece of legislation. But at the end of the day, Governor J.B. Pritzker believes in this woke, radical leftist ideology, okay? He's not even close to a moderate Democrat. He makes Gavin Newsom look like a conservative. So look, at every single issue that Governor J.B. Pritzker talks about or signs a bill for, it's going to be the most radical leftist agenda in this country.
All right, State Representative Adam Neimerg, Illinois Freedom Caucus. I appreciate the update once again, and I'm going to be reaching out again once we get closer to things getting up and running. And then, obviously, I think these March primaries are going to be really, really fascinating to watch, because it's all about derailing J.B. Pritzker, either as he tries to run for re-election in Springfield or obviously running or waddling for election in Washington, D.C.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yep, you got it. All right, 314-912-1019. I made another fat joke.
You just can't help yourself.
I can't help it, because he's fat. I'm just saying.
I see your indifference. Stop it right now before you blow us all away.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
His weight is listed 215.
He looks good, and he looks hard.
On Newstalk STL.
Kathy Connor from Connor Roofing is here. Kathy, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Vic.
You know, when you need a roof, I don't want to call a stranger. I want to call you.
Yeah, thanks. At Connor Roofing, we're more than just a roofing company.
How long you been doing it?
Since 1993.
And year after year, storm after storm, you guys are always there.
Because this is our home, too, Vic. Our kids go to school with your kids. We cheer for the same teams. Go Blues!
So support your neighbors. Call Connor Roofing at 314-375-7475 or CONNER roofing.com.
Thanks, Vic.
Is diabetes keeping you from enjoying life's special moments? At U.S. Med, we understand the challenges you face, and we're here to help.
With U.S. Med, I can finally manage my diabetes without it managing me.
U.S. Med offers a wide range of services to simplify your diabetes care. Personalized care plans, convenient access to cutting-edge diabetes tech, and knowledgeable support. Plus, we'll check your insurance so your diabetes care may be covered at little or no cost to you.
With U.S. Med, I feel confident and control of my diabetes. I can finally live my life to the fullest.
Don't let diabetes hold you back. Choose U.S. Med and experience better birthdays, better adventures, better anniversaries, and better everything. Call now. U.S. Med. Better service, better care. 800-515-2380. 800-515-2380. 800-515-2380. That's 800-515-2380.
Thanks for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Radio news junkie. Love every bit about it.
News Talk STL.
Happy New Year, News Talk STL listeners. This is Levi with Reach Reproductive Health. We could not be out here seeing parents empowered and babies saved without you and your support. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, and have a blessed 2026.
All right, what's going on? Well, here's a question I think a lot of people are asking is, did we capture a wanted man? And it's as simple as that, or did we conquer a nation and install our own handpicked government?
That's the million-dollar question.
Very big question there. There are still a lot of questions about what's happened in Venezuela. Also, both Missouri and Illinois lawmakers headed back to work for 2026. And Blues trying to stay within striking distance of a playoff spot. Things not looking great, but not out of reach yet at this point.
So all hope is not lost.
So it's just kind of they're hanging right in there at around 500. So I'll give you the update on that. It's 8:21 right now. Let's go ahead and do Ye Old News Dump.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The morning news dump.
Obviously, the world is talking about Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro being captured after U.S. military strikes in Venezuela over the weekend. So he is being arraigned today, as in this morning. It could be happening right now. He was taken to the courthouse about 30 minutes ago, so I'm not sure when the arraignment is actually going to begin, but he is already in the courthouse. He was taken there this morning. Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs Tricia McLaughlin tells Fox's The Big Weekend Show that the operation and those strikes bring justice for Americans who've suffered the effects of drug addiction.
Hundreds of thousands of Americans and American families grapple with overdoses, hundreds of thousands of deaths, and Nicolas Maduro is largely responsible for many of these, funneling deadly drugs into our borders.
Okay, and Representative Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, speaking about the strikes on Meet the Press on NBC.
This was not simply a counter-narcotics operation. It was an act of war. It involved, of course, the Delta Force, and we're thankful for the precision by which they executed the operation and thankful for the fact that no American lives were lost.
See, and that's the question, though, was this a military strike as an act of war? And I'm not saying that pejoratively, just saying, is it in fact an act of war, or is it, as the Trump administration is arguing, it was a law enforcement effort and the military was needed to protect the law enforcement personnel executing the warrant? And that may sound like you're just threading the needle and doing semantics, but those semantics may be the difference between what's legal and constitutional and what's not.
Yeah, the facts of the matter is simply that there were several strikes that occurred. It does not appear that the anti-air defense systems of Venezuela were activated against our air forces. So at the very least, it seems as though the strikes could have gone they went as well as they could have gone. But
my understanding is that there were attack helicopters.
Oh yeah,
that were used. This wasn't necessarily fighter jets. This was up close and personal.
Oh, it was a very impressive operation altogether. But if the whole idea is defense against narco-terrorism and to prevent the overdoses from illegal drugs that are hazardous to people, we should be doing this against Mexico and the cartels. Yeah, that's where most of it comes from.
I'll be really honest. The term narco-terrorism to me is kind of a nonsense thing. These are drug dealers. It's a drug cartel, but if you just throw in the word terrorism, suddenly we're supposed to have a whole different look at it.
Well, and that's why I reserve that term for the Mexican cartels, right, because they do operate through actual ISIS-style terrorism. It just so happens that they're, instead of jihad, it's about peddling drugs.
Exactly. All right, so speaking of the war powers and the war powers question, the Senate is likely going to vote on a war powers measure following that entire controversy over the capture of Nicolas Maduro. Bernie Bennett has the story in Washington.
Virginia Democrat Senator Tim Kaine said that he will force a vote next week to block further military action against Venezuela without congressional approval in the wake of President Donald Trump's operation to capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said he expects further briefings from the administration on this operation as part of its comprehensive counter-narcotic strategy. House Speaker Mike Johnson added that the Trump administration is working to schedule briefings for lawmakers when they return to Washington. I'm Bernie Bennett in Washington.
And we just spoke with Congressman Bob Onder about that. He said some members of the House will be briefed today. The rest likely will be briefed within the next 48 hours.
Okay, so and by the end of the week, we should have a more complete picture of what's going on then.
Yep,
okay.
exactly. All right, Missouri lawmakers start the 2026 session on Wednesday with tax reform being the main agenda item for both the governor and for top Republicans. Susie and I will be doing the show on Wednesday from the Missouri State Capitol. Also in Illinois, the State House scheduled to resume work on the 20th. The state Senate has nothing on the calendar for the next couple of weeks. We just spoke with State Representative Adam Neimerg, and he says, yeah, it's a lot of positioning and campaign stuff. After the March primary elections, then you'll see everybody kind of hit the ground running, but there'll be a little bit here and there in the meantime.
Yeah, and two, one of the things that stuck out is, the strategy is there. It seems like we have a good idea of where we need the direction we need to go, but it's getting people to agree with and get on board with that strategy to implement it.
Yep. All right, U.S. House Committee is planning to hold a hearing on the fraud scandal that's been happening in Minnesota. Governor Tim Walz has been invited to testify in front of the committee. We'll see whether he accepts the invitation. Congressman James Comer, a Republican out of Kentucky, as you probably know, was on Hannity's special, and he says the demand for answers is not going away.
The mainstream media is finally starting to cover it. They thought it would just be a 24 or 48-hour news cycle, but this is what the American people are interested in.
Okay, now keep your eye on redstate.com as well. Susie was telling us that there is a press conference with Governor Tim Walz scheduled in about 90 minutes from right now.
Ooh.
So assuming that goes off as scheduled, there are a lot of speculation as to whether or not Governor Tim Walz, who is up for re-election this year, is going to continue that campaign or whether he's got a different announcement. But this could be a major announcement coming today from Tim Walz. So keep your eye on redstate.com, among other conservative media, to keep up to date on that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. With the Obamacare subsidies having been expired as of December 31st, Republican and Democrats in Congress, they are still nowhere closer to an agreement as to what's next. That's either going to replace it or extend it. Congresswoman Nicole Maliotakis, a Republican out of New York State, was on Fox Business Network's Maria Bartiromo's Wall Street, explaining that there still could be a deal made.
This is going to require a bipartisan solution, and what I think eventually plays out this month is that you see a bill going over to the Senate, and I think the Senate will work with us on the proposal that we put forward, Brian Fitzpatrick, myself, and a bipartisan group of Republicans and Democrats.
And Bob Onder just told us a little bit ago that he thinks any deal to try to bring back those ACA subsidy extensions probably dead in the water. By the way, just an update, moments, literally seconds ago, Newsmax is now reporting that press conference that Tim Walz is going to do in about 90 minutes, that he is going to announce he is not running for re-election.
Wow.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, I want to be optimistic that maybe this will be a chance to actually have somebody competent put in place, because it's scary to think about how he was almost the vice president.
Right.
But on the other hand, as we've seen, does this mean maybe somebody even further left and more loony is going to be taking his place?
I mean, I'm not an expert on Minnesota politics, but look for the possibility of Amy Klobuchar announcing that she may want to run. But Newsmax is now doing that reporting, so keep your eye on Red State. We heard it from Red State first. Now Newsmax is saying that is likely what's going to happen here. All right, if you haven't checked out a St. Louis indoor soccer game lately,
nope.
You missed a pretty good game on Sunday.
Oh,
I actually watched it yesterday afternoon. So after going up 2-0 in the first quarter, the Ambush had to come from behind in Kansas City. They tied the game with 37 seconds left in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
Yeah, it looked like St. Louis was going to lose to Kansas City again, because they played each other like 6 times in the last 3 weeks or something like that. They don't play each other again for the rest of the season. So after overtime, it was still 6-6. So they went to a shootout where the Ambush then got the win over the Comets in Kansas City.
Well done, boys.
It was a good game. It was a lot of fun to watch.
I might actually have to get the soccer then.
Well, indoor soccer is a whole different thing.
Oh.
It moves really fast. It's like the hockey version of soccer.
Oh, you've convinced me. I'm going to check this out now.
It's actually a lot of fun. All right, and the Blues have a few days off. They're not going to be back on the ice until Wednesday when they take on the Blackhawks, and that game's going to be in Chicago. Blues are 17, 18, and 8 on the season.
Ay, caramba. Well, On the bright side, if you are busy today and you want to keep up with all of the amazing and fast-paced news stories going on, we have a free app that you can download and bring us with you. So if you have a phone, you have a radio, download the NewsTalk STL app, put your earbuds in, and bring us on the go.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Looks like winter might be packing up and taking a vacation of its own this week. I've got highs near 60 in the forecast through at least Thursday, if not Friday. And it all starts today under mostly sunny skies, up to 59 degrees this afternoon. A south wind light at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Mild tonight, just a couple of clouds drifting by. Tuesday morning's low only 46, and then 60 for the high Tuesday afternoon. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Fox News commentary with Brian Kilmeade next.
I'm alpine skier Michaela Schifrin. I've won the most World Cup ski races in history. But what does success mean to me? Success means discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us, and it's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. If you're looking for success, surround yourself with the people who will get you there. If you're an advisor or investor, choose Stifel, where success meets success.
Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated. Member SIPC and NYSE.
Past performance is no indication of future results. Investing involves risk. Consult a financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
Here's Brian Kilmeade.
If President Trump's programs work, he's got a great shot at bucking history and being the fourth major president in the last 100 years to keep the House, keep the Senate, and let's just say not lose seats. If he doesn't, he'll pay the price.
I inherited a mess, and I'm fixing it.
The economy has grown at a stunning 4.3% in the third quarter, faster than the previous quarter. That's an outstanding number by any means. People are going to start seeing that and the effects in their paychecks, too, because wages are expected to rise. No tax on tips, remember. No tax on overtime. Social Security, big tax break. Investments from abroad. Investment accounts for newborns. And they're supposed to be bigger than ever tax returns. That should juice and stimulate the economy.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Since 1981, Amis has been serving the St. Louis area mouth-watering pizza, pasta, and steaks made with love and passion. With 2 convenient locations in St. Louis and O'Fallon, we offer dine-in, carry-out, and delivery. From intimate dinners to large catering events, there's something for everyone on our menu. Visit us today or check out our full menu at amispizza.com.
NewsTalk STL takes you live to Jefferson City for the 2026 Missouri Legislature opening session, Wednesday, January 7th. Mike Ferguson in the morning and former House Speaker Tim Jones and Chris Arps bring you exclusive coverage and insider access. We're live from the 3rd floor in the Missouri Capitol beginning Wednesday morning at 5:30 and Wednesday afternoon at 3. Don't miss this special broadcast this Wednesday on 101.9 and 94.1 NewsTalk STL. Brought to you by Americans for Prosperity.
Streaming TV is where it's at. It's not about cutting the cord anymore. That's old news. It's all about your customized TV options. With the best and cheapest high-speed internet and your own TV subscriptions, we've got your dream TV lineup. Between wired and satellite internet and TV, you now have tons of options. Save money and get more internet speed and better TV today by calling the Whole Home Connect. We scan your location and offer you the best TV and internet options. And we always have specials and promotions. So when you call, ask about that. Take 5 minutes of your time, make this free call now, and learn how to save money and get better internet and TV for your home anywhere in the U.S. Make this simple and free call now.
800-257-1632. 800-257-1632. 800-257-1632. That's 800-257-1632.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
Love the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
On my way to work in the morning.
Usually I'm in the car.
I listen on the app in my car every morning going to work.
Download the NewsTalk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
This is Congressman Bob Onder wishing you and yours and the whole NewsTalk STL family a happy and blessed New Year.
All right, the situation in Venezuela. Okay, this is really, really complicated. The left says this was an act of war. There was no authorization from Congress. Therefore, this is illegal and unconstitutional. The Trump administration, the White House says, no, this was a law enforcement effort, and the military was needed to allow law enforcement to execute the arrest warrant.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the jurisdiction? This is in another country. This is in another sovereign nation. How does that complicate things? Okay, so before you get into the arguments with your friends, whether it's on the right or on the left, let's have the foundational understanding of what's going on. And we spoke a little bit earlier with Mike O'Neill from the Landmark Legal Foundation to get his insight, because this is what they do, is constitutional law. And I thought he covered a lot of ground that was really helpful to me personally, Jerome, as far as understanding what happened. And this is one of those discussions, once it's put up on the podcast here in just a little bit, this is one you want to send to your friends. Just text it to them or just put it up on your social media. So here's Mike O'Neill from Landmark Legal Foundation. This is Senator Chuck Schumer from This Week on ABC, responding to the news that the United States put strikes in place and executed that search warrant and found Nicolas Maduro, arrested him just moments ago. He was unloaded off of a helicopter, and he's heading to the courtroom to be arraigned as we speak. But here's Senator Chuck Schumer's initial reaction.
They did not just do ships off the water. They went inside Venezuela, bombed civilian as well as military places. And it's a violation of the law to do what they did without getting the authorization of Congress.
Okay, so let's start there. Now, here's the thing, Susie, is we're going to have all day to talk about whether we agree, whether we disagree, what was good, what was bad, that sort of thing. But Nicolas Maduro is a bad guy. I think pretty much everybody agrees on that.
I think so, yeah.
He's the bad guy. But does the U.S. have a legal or constitutional right to essentially invade and to capture him and either as a goal or as a side effect, end up forcing a regime change in another country? I think these are fair questions to ask on this. And I think we should answer those before we get into all the politics of it. So we're joined now by Mike O'Neill from the Landmark Legal Foundation. And Mike, let me start right there. So regardless of whether you think this was a good or a bad thing from a policy or a military perspective, does it make a difference as to the government, Secretary Marco Rubio, for instance, saying we were executing an arrest warrant, and if regime change happened, well, so be it. The military strikes were there to protect law enforcement, versus we're going to go in and topple a government. I mean, what are the specifics of what's okay and what's not under our laws?
Right. Multiple things can be true at once. Right. Happy New Year, by the way, everyone. So just absolutely. This was, let me throw out a name, Manuel Noriega. I mean, there's precedent for this in the United States. I mean, if you want to go back, you can go back hundreds of years to this, especially in our hemisphere when you had incidents like this occurring. But just most recently, you had Manuel, the apprehension. And I mean, I don't call it an invasion. I mean, everybody says invasion, but when you think invasion, you think Iraq, right? Divisions going in, boots on the ground, occupying space in the country. We don't see that. This was a lightning strike. This was an apprehension. Obviously, the military was used, but it was primarily a law enforcement operation. And when you contextualize that, a law enforcement operation to apprehend, detain, and bring Nicolas Maduro to the United States to face criminal charges. And when you contextualize it in that way, then certainly the United States has every right under our law to do this, under the Constitution to do this. The president has the power under Article 2 of the Constitution to do this. And again, this is something that's been done before. And Chuck Schumer, I mean, that's just rampant politicization. He had advocated for this during the Biden administration. Remember, there was a warrant out for Nicolas Maduro's arrest since 2020. We're talking 5 years. The Biden administration had put out a $25 million reward for Nicolas Maduro. So that's just rampant politics that Chuck Schumer is saying. He has to go out there to placate his radical leftist base. But legally speaking, certainly the president is on strong legal footing. There is case law supporting this. The 11th Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the conviction of Manuel Noriega over 30 years ago. And so I think the president is on very solid, both legal and constitutional grounds to take the action that he took. And again, when you contextualize this as primarily a law enforcement operation to bring a fugitive to justice into the United States, and that's exactly what's happening, right? He's being detained He's in the U.S. criminal justice system right now. He's going to face an arraignment today. Is it today?
Yeah, they're going on right now.
So right. So he's in the custody of the Department of Justice in the federal prison facilities. He's not on Guantanamo Bay, right? He's not at Gitmo. Think about what we do with Al Qaeda guys to put him at Gitmo. He's in the criminal justice system facing an indictment. He's going to have representation. I'm sure he's going to have great lawyers representing him throughout this entire process. So he's going to face due process. And so I think that the president is on very strong legal grounds. I don't see any throwing out this indictment or dismissing this indictment or somehow returning Maduro to Venezuela.
Mike, I was doing a little bit of the research on the background on this case, which, I didn't know a whole lot about before this weekend. I think this is like the fourth superseding indictment in the case. This has been going on for a long time.
Right.
One of the questions that I had, though, was that there's, and this is not my area of specialty, there's some understanding that as long as the president notifies Congress within 48 hours of taking certain actions, that allows, that allows for him to maybe take the action before letting them know. Is this going to fall under that category? Do you know?
I don't think so. I think if the president or the Secretary of State or whomever, Secretary of Defense, can properly explain the fact that there is a legitimate concern of a leak that would jeopardize the operational security of the operation, then I think that they don't have to notify Congress. And I think that's what you saw here. The way people contextualize this as a standing military operation, I mean, that would be problematic. Remember, you have that 60-day emergency procedure that we're talking about. If you're gonna execute any kind of military operation that exceeds 60 days, you have to have some sort of congressional approval for that. But this is a lightning strike when you think about it in that context. This is the United States law enforcement operation going in, and you say, well, why is the military needed here? The military is needed because they need to protect and defend those executing an arrest warrant, right? So you had DEA agents, at least from what I know, that you see the picture of Maduro being hauled out, and he's got there's DEA agents there. So it was law enforcement officers of the United States executing a criminal warrant. And then the reason why the military was used, again, when we're talking purely the legal, not the geopolitical implications of all this, but we're talking strictly on the legal aspects of this, you needed the United States military to protect and defend those law enforcement officers who were executing a criminal warrant. And if you strictly stay within that context, and I think that's the facts that are going to be operative when we're talking about the trial, the indictment, the prosecution of Nicolas Maduro. These are all the facts that are going to be relevant. And I think when you talk about the geopolitical implications, that's going to be secondary to what we're discussing right now.
All right, that voice you're hearing is Mike O'Neill from the Landmark Legal Foundation. So let me do one more question on this aspect of it, and the arrest warrant, and what you just described is what some U.S. senators like Mike Lee and some others have said, well, this is how Secretary Marco Rubio explained it to them. So far, right, the Republicans at least are satisfied with that answer. How does a warrant issued in a U.S. court have worldwide jurisdiction? I mean, is there an issue with the sovereignty of another nation?
Yeah, certainly. We're talking about conflicts of laws issues here, and you can talk about international law versus U.S. law. And there is actually an attorney general. Congress really hasn't written any laws on this, there has, to the extent to which it's been addressed by courts, there's really an AG opinion from Bill Barr, nonetheless, from years ago that addresses this. And when you have a conflict here, when you say the United States has to execute a domestic warrant, again, that's a federal warrant here that's issued in the United States, and it might conflict with international law. Well, of course, the American domestic law is going to trump, pun included, is going to trump international law. And again, I think that's the fact that the president has the Article 2 authority to execute the laws of the United States. And when you're talking about a conflict of international law versus American law or constitutional law, the American law and the Constitution trump the international law. So if there is any kind of international law that could be brought in that might be relevant, I don't think that's going to be dispositive in a U.S. court.
What about a conflict with Venezuelan law or Venezuelan jurisdiction?
No, again, yeah, that comes into, again, you can look in here, the precedent to faithfully execute the laws of the United States. And even if that means, again, going in, think about the precedent, Manuel Noriega from 1989, right? If you're going to go into a foreign country, even though the president of that country might claim some sort of sovereign immunity, that isn't going to hold any water in a U.S. court. Again, 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, the Noriega case is I think, controlling in those situations.
So, Mike, the running joke has been, how long is it going to be until a federal judge finds a way to throw this indictment out or that sort of thing?
Yeah.
This doesn't strike me as the type of situation where we're likely to see, at least not, right off the bat, some sort of partisan action by even though it's Alvin Hellerstein, who I don't think is necessarily a big fan of the Trump administration. This doesn't strike me as the type of case where we're going to see those types of shenanigans, judicial activism in play. But do you see some weaknesses here from a legal standpoint?
I don't really, not really. Well, yeah, certainly a jury in New York.
That's true.
That's probably a weakness. That is an interesting point. The venue, I think we're talking Southern District of New York, so you do have the potential. That is certainly a factor that the federal government's going to have to consider here is the composition of a jury and the fact that you might have some, for lack of a better term, just crazy lefties on there that are just so Trump derangement syndrome, just don't see through the facts and the law here. And keep in mind the facts of this. This is an individual who's head of a narco-terrorist organization. That's how the Secretary of State really contextualized this over the weekend, is that there is not a recognition of the legitimacy of Maduro as president of Venezuela. The United States, from a legal perspective, views him as the head of a drug cartel, of a narco-terrorist organization, something Del Sol, I think it was Cartel del Sol, right? Yeah. So I think when you contextualize it and that's the framework that we're going to be working under in a court of law, that this isn't the president of some sovereign country. He wasn't recognized as that. I think he was illegitimately put in power in Venezuela, and that's all going to be operative here. That he is no different than a head of a drug cartel being brought into the United States for prosecution for violating U.S. laws. So probably the biggest speed bump that I could possibly foresee is that the composition of a jury in the Southern District of New York might be something to consider.
Okay, just got a minute or so left, Mike. Mike O'Neill from the Landmark Legal Foundation. Now we're getting some, I guess, mixed messages and confusion, but the president has said a couple of times, well, in the meantime, we're going to run the country, and then basically we're going to. That to me is real. That rubs me the wrong way. It's one thing to say, okay, we executed the warrant according to our laws, and as a result, there's a void there. But do we have any authority or right to basically pseudo run another country's government after we've arrested the guy who was in power, legitimate or not?
I think when you're talking about that, you're you're kind of in the realm of international diplomacy at this point, right? You're kind of out of the law. You're out of the realm of the legality of the propriety of the prosecution here. The United States, this is kind of akin going back into Iraq. Do we want to have some sort of authorization of use of military force? The extent to which we're involved, I think there's a lot of facts that need to be kind of taken into consideration. What does it mean when the president says we're going to run the country? Are we are we exercising diplomacy to assert pressure over the people who are currently in power? I think that they have a vice president who now is elevated to president. They have some sort of Supreme Court there. They have people in power. So I think what it comes down to is the details of what the president means. If we're exercising pressure, diplomatic and militaristic pressure to influence how these people behave within their country, I think that might be in the safe. But if we're kind of bringing in some sort of American some sort of American designee who's going to run the country, that might be a little more problematic. Certainly the president's statements will not necessarily be helpful in a prosecution of Maduro, but I think it's not going to be dispositive from a legal perspective.
All right, Mike, once again, appreciate the perspective, the framing of this here. We've already tagged you on social media. What's the website people want to get in touch with you all?
Yeah, landmarklegal.org, landmarklegal.org.
All right, great. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
It's more than a rebellion. When your teen is slipping into drugs or alcohol, when social media and pornography consume their time and their mind, when depression and even suicidal thoughts cast a shadow over your home, as a parent, you feel powerless. There is hope. At Turnabout Ranch, troubled teens step away from the chaos and into a clarity of nature on a working cattle ranch. Care for horses, learn responsibility, build trust, and rediscover purpose. It isn't theory, it's real work, real therapy, real healing. Families from across the country have found transformation right here, just when they thought hope was gone. If your teen is struggling with addiction, harmful online behaviors, even weight management, call right now and get the help you all need.
800-219-2494. 800-219-2494. 800-219-2494. That's 800-219-2494.
Colombo and Company.
Join us every day for conversations with a wide variety of guests as we keep you informed and up to speed on all the important news and headlines you need to know.
Live and local weekdays at 2 on Newstalk STL.
Hey, it's Chris Salcedo from Newsmax TV. From all of us on the Chris Salcedo Show, want to wish everybody in the News Talk STL family a Happy New Year.
All right. I have no idea what the fallout is going to be with what happened to Venezuela, because you've also got President Trump now saying, well, hey, I'm looking at Cuba. Now I'm looking at Colombia. Now, and so there are a lot of bad guys out there. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, there are two different questions. Are they good or bad guys? And then there's, okay, but what are we allowed to, what can we, what should we do versus understanding that sometimes other countries have bad guys leading them?
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So the right answer will probably not be known or not be clear, but it's very, very easy to agree that the bad guy was caught and the bad guy's facing court today.
Yes.
Facing arraignment today. There shouldn't be anybody going, no, Maduro's the good guy. If Maduro's the good guy, you're living in the wrong country if you think that's the good guy.
It's funny how all the no kings, Trump is a dictator, the bad guy, people are now sticking up for a literal dictator.
Literally, yeah. Oh, good Lord. All right, 8:52 right now. Get Steve on the line here. Steve, got some thoughts on this. What do you think?
Yeah, hey, guys. Happy New Year, beautiful people there.
I'm here, too.
First off, yeah, I'm including you.
Okay.
First off, this is not my main comment, but I also question the New York jurisdiction. After doing a little digging, it's my understanding that was chosen because it's the headquarters of the DEA. It's where most of their main offices are, and I assume most of their attorneys, et cetera. But I want to tag on to something Jerome said a few breaks ago, or before a few breaks, and that was why not go into Mexico and some other countries, and that is what drug the last 5 years has been in the news in terms of causing overdose deaths?
Fentanyl more than anything.
Yeah. What is the main drug coming out of Venezuela?
I think it's cocaine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do question. So I kind of am offended by the big emphasis on drugs, and it's kind of, to me, it's a little bit of gaslighting. I'm of the opinion, just from experience, that oftentimes we are not given all the reasons why different actions like this are initiated. And I've got a couple things that I've looked at that seem plausible. A big one here is this is also a strike against China and their influence in Venezuela. And I think also that it's a strike against Cuba as a secondary aspect. Again, remember our Secretary of State is of Cuban heritage. Those Cuban people that came and escaped Castro still a very, very strong desire to see their country freed and to get rid of communism down there. But a lot of people don't realize it, but for, probably, 15 years or more, Venezuela has been Cuba has been very dependent on Venezuela. for oil. They've got a deal worked out where Venezuela sends Cuba oil because it's a very energy-poor country. In return, Castro and now whoever runs the country now, I forget his name, they have been sending essentially slave labor, skilled slave labor, back to Venezuela, where there's a shortage of doctors, physicians, nurses, engineers, people like that. They're being conscripted from Cuba and being sent to Venezuela to work for a few years at basically no wages at all. Basically, they're slaves. So I think this can also be seen as a strike against Cuba.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, let me follow up on this. Steve, appreciate you being on, and Happy New Year to you. I mean, I've seen this compared essentially to the Monroe Doctrine, which goes back to the early days where back then, of course, it was Europeans. We were telling, no, you cannot have an influence in our hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a fine line between China, Russia, to some degree. You are not allowed to have base points, and you're not allowed to have this massive influence in our hemisphere, which is what this has been compared to by some. There may be something to that. And if that's the case, then this is just a very grand scheme of complexity on this. So there's a fine line between we're going to protect our interest, and also we need to understand that we don't own the hemisphere.
Yes.
So the sovereignty of nations is a real thing. Now, Maduro was not a legitimate president. He clearly lost that election and just held on to power by force.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not our job to be the police of every other country out there as well. So to Steve's point, I think that there is something to a Monroe Doctrine type of situation on this to say, as he pointed out, Russia, Iran, China, have very clear vested interests in having a base of military operations that close to the United States. You can go back to the Cuban Missile Crisis with JFK as president as there as well, to say that beyond our borders, we do have an interest in national defense. Now, what's real on that and what's not, I don't think we know yet. And anybody who jumps up to say this was 100% right or 100% wrong, I think is probably doing so out of partisanship more than anything else.
Yeah, the thing that's on my mind is in that same vein is it really that there was an arrest warrant? Because some of the charges that I've heard or seen allegedly are U.S. laws that are being enforced, and I don't know too much about that right now. But the point is that the excuse going after drug runners is the excuse that allows them to get around and circumvent having to go through Congress, or is this a legitimate actual operation?
Yeah, that's what we're going to learn a whole lot more about this week. It's going to be fascinating. But let's all agree at least on one thing: a really bad guy, very well deserving, is in jail.